Nepal's upcoming budget focuses on middle-class relief with tax exemptions. Private sector welcomes rise in capital expenditures. Nepal's PM says government committed to implement women's rights, stresses on ending witchcraft, chaupadi and gender-based violence. 453 Nepali nationals rescued from India's various locations brought to Rupandehi. Investigations also launched. Hexet says US not turning back on Asia allies but expects them to boost defense. Also, US wants to avoid needless confrontation. No deal announced after Trump's meeting to make final determination on Iran deal. Iran blames US blockade for stalled deal. And Nepal misses chance to enter the final of Asian Games women's cricket, suffers 2-wicket defeat to Malaysia. Good evening, I am April Singh Lama and this is NTV World Primetime News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. The details now. Nepal's government budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27 has placed a strong emphasis on middle-class relief, introducing a range of tax exemptions alongside concessions in housing, education and investment sectors. Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle announced a total budget of 2.124 trillion Nepali rupees for the upcoming fiscal year. However, economic experts have cautioned that the expansion of tax breaks and the removal of several existing tax rates could significantly narrow the government's revenue base. They warn that these measures, while aimed at boosting household relief and consumption, may make it challenging for the state to meet its projected revenue targets in the coming fiscal year. The budget for fiscal year 2026-27 has addressed the middle class through certain tax relief measures and facilities related to housing, education and investment. Unlike previous years, when priorities were distributed across various sectors and themes, this time the middle class has been placed at the center, according to experts. Overall, while the budget sounds appealing, it appears to remain silent on how to uplift the living standards of the low-income population. The government also has sent a revenue collection target of more than 1.4 trillion rupees. However, with the removal of tax rates and the expansion of various tax exemptions, experts analyze that achieving this revenue target may be difficult. Nepal's Minister for Information and Communications, Dr. Bikram Timilsina, has emphasized the government's responsibility to fulfill electoral promises. At a program organized in Central District of Nuwakot, Minister Timilsina highlighted that the budget for the fiscal year 2026-27 is crafted to meet the aspirations of the youth, focusing on good governance, prosperity and transformative change. Furthermore, he stated that the budget lays the groundwork for planned development over the next 20 years and underscored the government's dedication to combating corruption and middlemanship. Dr. Timilsina acknowledged the past governance failures that led to youth dissatisfaction and a demand for alternative political power, asserting that the current government prioritizes citizen-centric policies and programs. The budget for the fiscal year 2026-27, made public by the government on Friday, has been welcomed with a positive note by industrialists and business persons. The others say that the effort to remove excise duty on 360 types of goods and simplify the tax system for the industry are welcome. Furthermore, banking, automobile and real estate businesses will benefit from this budget as it is likely to increase consumption and demand in the market. It is also said industrialists and traders are going to have directly benefited as the government has adopted policies targeting the industry, including reducing customs duty and removing excise duty. Meanwhile, President of the Federation of Nepalese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FNCCI, Anjan Shrestha, has expressed his hope that the rise in capital expenditure will help revitalize the private sector and in turn strengthen the overall economy. Industrialists and business leaders of the Sunsari-Morang Industrial Corridor have welcomed the government's budget for the fiscal year 2026-27, calling it supportive of industrial growth and long-awaited reforms. However, they have urged the government to present a concrete implementation action plan, expressing concern over the repeated trend of unspent capital budgets. They say measures such as the removal of excise duties on several goods, restructuring of customs rates, and increased tax thresholds for small and medium enterprises will help boost industrial expansion and investment confidence. Meanwhile, in Madhe's, reactions to the budget are mixed. While projects such as the development of Janakpur Dham as a religious tourism hub, railway expansion and key infrastructure upgrades have raised expectations, stakeholders argue that the budget lacks clear allocations for implementations. Now, economists and local leaders warn that major announcements, including UNESCO listing efforts and transport projects, risk remaining on paper without proper funding and execution. Overall, both regions have welcomed the intent of the budget but are calling for stronger execution mechanisms to ensure promises translate into results. Now, we'll go for a short break here. Stay tuned. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Welcome back. Nepal's Prime Minister Balendra Shah has expressed the government's commitment to effectively implement the women's rights, gender equality and women empowerment. In a message of best wishes delivered on the occasion of 8th National Women's Rights Day, he noted the Constitution has guaranteed women's rights as fundamental human rights and ensured proportional and inclusive representation as well as meaningful participation in all state bodies. Prime Minister Shah stated that creating public awareness alongside legal arrangements was a must to eliminate ill practice such as child marriage, witchcraft, chaupadi, dowry, as well as gender-based domestic and digital violence. He emphasized on active collaboration among the state, community and all stakeholders for the protection and promotion of women's rights. This year, National Women's Rights Day, meanwhile, is being celebrated with the slogan "Respect for Women's Rights, Campaign for Self-Reliance and Prosperity." A total of 453 Nepali citizens have been rescued from various locations in India. The individuals were brought to the district police office, Rupandehi, after being rescued from different parts of Kushinagar in Uttar Pradesh, India, where investigations have now begun. According to Rupandehi police, the rescued individuals are being examined to determine who among them are victims and who may be involved as perpetrators. The police have stated that victims will be handed over to their families, while further investigation will be conducted against those found to be involved in wrongdoings. The group was brought to Nepal via the Belahia border, crossing from Kushinagar this afternoon. The rescue operation was carried out with the coordination and facilitation of the Nepali Embassy in India. Councillor and Public Affairs Officer at the Embassy, along with Nepal Police SSP Prakash Malla, stated that the rescue was made possible after 6 months of coordinated efforts with police in Uttar Pradesh, Kushinagar and Lumbini Province Police. Preliminary findings suggest that an organized group lured Nepali citizens with promises of attractive jobs, transporting them via Sunauli to Kushinagar. They were allegedly charged between 7,001 and 100,000 Indian rupees per person and recruited into a network-based business model, expanding membership through a fraudulent networking scheme. Now, Nepal's Department of Mines and Geology has initiated preparations for a second phase agreement aimed at commercial petroleum extraction. The department is working internally on a potential additional agreement between itself and the China Geological Survey for commercial scale extraction activities. The petroleum exploration project, conducted with technical assistance from the government of China to promote domestic production of petroleum resources, has completed its first phase activities, including drilling and exploration works in Zoljale Ward Number 1 of Bhairavi Rural Municipality in Dailek District. Following the completion of drilling and exploration activities, the department has coordinated with the government to secure necessary support for advancing the agreement required to begin commercial production. According to the chief of the Petroleum Exploration Project, Dharmaraj Khadka, recent collaborative work with the Chinese technical team has included seismic surveys, geological surveys, magnetotelluric surveys and geochemical sampling. Preliminary samples testing conducted to assess petroleum reserves and storage capacity has indicated promising potential for both petroleum and natural gas in the region. Nepal's far western Sudur Paschim province government has advanced the process of formulating legislation to legally regulate the traditional Tharu Badkar Balmansa system. The bill on the protection and development of Badkar and Balmansa practices has been tabled in the Provincial Assembly, aiming to preserve, promote and develop the indigenous social structure of the Tharu community. According to Social Development Minister Meghraj Khadka, the bill was drafted following consultations with concerned stakeholders from the community. The proposed legislation seeks to formalize Tharu communities' traditional social roles, defining their responsibilities and working procedures. It also outlines that office bearers will be selected through the traditional Bhura Khel system based on consensus and through voting if consensus is not reached. The bill prohibits candidates from contesting through political party panels. The legislation further ensures at least 33% representation of women in these traditional governance structures. Moving on, the Himalayan database, the authoritative archive of mountaineering expeditions in Nepal's Himalayas, is continuing to document climbers' ascents amid a sharp rise in commercial expeditions on the world's highest peaks. Founded in 1963 by late American journalist Elizabeth Hawley, the database is now maintained by German climber Billy Bierling, who conducts post-expedition interviews with mountaineers in Kathmandu. Bierling said the increasing number of climbers attempting peaks such as Everest has made the task more challenging, with Nepal issuing a record 492 Everest permits to foreign climbers this season. The database now supplements interviews with official expedition figures from Nepal's tourism ministry, while continuing to follow the late founder's key principle of trusting the climber as the first step. Despite the growing scale of Himalayan climbing, by completing the centers, despite the growing scale of Himalayan climbing, he said that it remains committed to maintaining the database's accuracy and continuity, ensuring that every expedition is carefully verified and recorded despite the increasing workload. International news coming up next. For now, a short breather. The U.S. military are not turning our backs on Asia while fulfilling global obligations, such as the Iran war, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has told a top regional defense forum in Singapore. Hegseth sought to reassure Asia-Pacific allies about U.S. commitment to the region, including fulfilling arms deals in the wake of a suspended Taiwan weapons package, even as he reiterated calls for Asian partners to spend more on defense. While noting the threat to China's military buildup in the region, Hegseth also said the U.S. wanted to avoid needless confrontation.
This region has profound implications for U.S. security and prosperity. It's the world's largest and most dynamic market area. It's why our national defense strategy directs the Department of War to set the military conditions required to achieve a lasting and favorable balance of power in the Pacific region.
Now, an advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Mohsen Rezai, says the United States is betraying diplomacy by continuing its naval blockade. This came as U.S. President Donald Trump said earlier he will make a final determination on a deal with Iran to end the war, though Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghei said that while the exchange of messages is continuing, an understanding has not been finalized. Posting on Truth Social beforehand, Trump said Iran must agree to never have a nuclear weapon or bomb, that the Strait of Hormuz be reopened for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions, and that any mines in the strait be terminated. Iran says it is not negotiating on its nuclear program, insisting it is wholly for peaceful purposes. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have pushed their invasion of Lebanon to the outskirts of Nabatea as a major city. Israel continues to issue forced displacement orders for towns in the south of the country. Meanwhile, the Joint Maritime Information Center, JMIC, a multinational maritime security body monitoring the Indian Ocean, has assessed the threat level in the Strait of Hormuz as critical. The warning comes amid an ongoing U.S. maritime blockade targeting Iran-linked port facilities in the region. The UK Maritime Trade Operations Organization shared the advisory on X, highlighting heightened security risks for vessels transiting the area. It said mariners should expect increased naval activity, stronger force protection measures, and possible VHF radio hailing from military forces. The notice also cautioned of congestion near anchorage zones as tensions continue to affect commercial shipping routes. Russian President Vladimir Putin says no one can say that a drone that crashed in Romania was Russian amid European anger over the incident. The crash took place overnight, injuring 2 people and triggering a fire, according to Romanian officials who say the drone was Russian.
Никто не может сказать, какого происхождения тот или другой летательный аппарат до тех пор, пока не проведена экспертиза этого летательного аппарата. Ведь мы знаем, что и в Финляндию залетали украинские дроны, и в Польшу, и куда-то в страны Прибалтики залетали украинские дроны. Первая реакция была точно такая же, как сейчас вот в Румынии. Вот караул, русские идут, русские бьют. Потом через короткое время выяснялось, что ничего общего с российскими летательными аппаратами это не имеет.
Now, protecting children online has been declared an international priority by G7 countries following a summit chaired by France. France's digital minister Anne-Lé Henaf said the 7 member nations, which include Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, the UK and US, agreed on a set of common principles aimed at strengthening online safety for minors. The G7 acknowledged that the growing adoption of AI is expected to place increasing pressures on electricity grids worldwide. They also emphasized the need for stronger cooperation with tech companies to remove harmful content and improve age verification systems. Member states pledged to enhance digital literacy programs to better equip children and parents to navigate online risks safely. More international news and sports update on the other side of this short break. Stay with us. Now, millions of people with breast cancer could safely avoid chemotherapy as scientists have developed a DNA test that can distinguish between patients who are likely to benefit from the treatment and those who are not, according to the results of a trial. The international study found that more than two-thirds of its participants could be spared the side effects of chemotherapy and be treated with hormone therapy alone. Chemotherapy can cause fatigue, nausea, hair loss, a weakened immune system and fertility issues. The study, led by University College London (UCL), involved more than 4,000 newly diagnosed patients over the age of 40 in the UK, Norway, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand and Thailand. Scientists used a gene test called Procinia to measure the activity of 50 genes involved in breast cancer growth and calculate a patient's risk of the disease returning. Rescuers in Laos have successfully freed 5 of the 7 men trapped inside a flooded cave for more than a week after flash floods cut off their escape route. The group became stranded while searching for gold in a remote mountainous area of Zaisambun province on May 20. 5 of the men were found alive earlier this week, with 1 rescued a day earlier and while 2 remain missing, prompting an ongoing multinational rescue effort involving specialist drivers from several countries. Teams have been pumping floodwaters from the cave and preparing complex extraction operations amid difficult conditions and poor weather. China sends out 21 astronauts returned safely to Earth after completing a record-setting nearly 7-month mission aboard the country's space station. The return capsule carrying astronauts Zhang Lu, Wu Fei and Zhang Hongzhang landed at the Dongfeng site in Inner Mongolia at 8:11 p.m. on Friday, Beijing time, with officials confirming the crew was in good physical condition. During the mission, the astronauts conducted a series of scientific, medical and technological experiments, including China's first successful breeding of mice in orbit and the first aeroponic cultivation of cherry tomatoes and wheat in space. The crew also supported the uncrewed return of the damaged Shenzhou 20 spacecraft after its return capsule was reportedly struck by space debris. China launched Shenzhou 21 in October 2025, while a replacement spacecraft, Shenzhou 22, was later sent to ensure the crew's safe return to Earth. Now, the Wancho tribe in India's Arunachal Pradesh state that has held its annual Thathavan festival, a women-centric cultural celebration marking puberty, fertility and prosperity. Observed annually, the festival highlights the role of women in Wancho society and preserves traditional practices linked to agriculture and community life. Women take part exclusively wearing traditional attire, sharing meals in farm huts and performing rituals for girls who have reached the puberty during this year. A key ceremony includes presenting these girls with white skirts as a symbol of maturity and eligibility for marriage, alongside prayers and folk celebrations for fertility and well-being. Now, the festival concludes with village processions and rituals that emphasize harmony between women, plants and animals, with no animal sacrifice involved. Instead, rice rituals are performed for the animals, which are brought back from the jungle and tied outside homes, where they are fed salt and rice. Time for the sports update. Nepal women's cricket team has a last shot remaining for the 2026 Asian Games after it suffered 2-wicket defeat to host Malaysia in a semi-final fixture of the qualifier event today. Topping Group B with wins over China and Indonesia, Nepal was facing Malaysia, the second-place team of Group A, in the semi-final. In a match held at Bayumas Oval today, Malaysia successfully chased Nepal's target of 127 runs, amassing 127 runs with loss of 8 wickets in 18.4 overs. Earlier, after winning the toss and electing to bat first, Nepal scored 126 runs with loss of 6 wickets in the allotted 20 overs. Now, captain Indu Burma top scored with an unbeaten 46 runs, while Kavita Kuwar contributed 33 runs. Of the 6 teams participating in the qualifier, 3 are qualifying for the Asian Games in Japan. However, Nepal will now face China for the 3rd spot and aim to grab the only remaining ticket to Japan, where 5 other teams, Japan, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, have been waiting. Nepal's match against China tomorrow will kick off at 7:15 a.m. Nepal Standard Time. Moving on, security has been significantly increased around Iran's World Cup base camp in Mexico following concerns over regional geopolitical tensions, according to officials. Carlos Valverde, chief operating officer of the Caliente Group, owner of Club Tijuana, said the National Guard has been deployed at a vehicle entrance to the facility. The move comes days after FIFA reportedly approved a request to relocate the team's base from Tucson, Arizona to Mexico. Iran's participation in the upcoming World Cup has faced uncertainty for several months due to escalating tensions involving the United States and Israel, which have contributed to wider instability in the region. Now, 3-time French Open champion Novak Djokovic said he wasn't sure if he would return to the red clay of Roland Garros next year, following his 3rd-round defeat by Brazilian teenage sensation João Fonseca on Friday. The 39-year-old Serb, who celebrated his birthday last week, fell to a rare defeat in Paris, raising questions over his future in the tournament after 22 consecutive appearances. Djokovic, who has been injured for 3 months, said he felt he had played really good tennis against Fonseca but felt tired at the end of what will enter records as his longest game ever played in the French Open at 4 hours and 53 minutes. It was the 2nd time that Djokovic lost from 2 sets up, with the other also coming at Roland Garros against Jeroen Melzer in 2010. Should Djokovic choose to return, he would join a short list of players featuring in the French Open at 40, a feat achieved by few in the Open era. And now, before we wrap up, here's a reminder of our top stories once again. Nepal's upcoming budget focuses on middle-class relief with tax exemptions. Private sector welcomes rise in capital expenditures. Nepal's PM says government committed to implement women's rights, stresses on ending witchcraft, torpedy and gender-based violence. 453 Nepali nationals rescued from India's various locations brought to Rupandehi. Investigations are also launched. Hexet says U.S. not turning back on Asia allies but expect them to boost defense, as U.S. wants to avoid needless confrontation. No deal announced after Trump's meeting to make final determination on Iran deal. Iran blames U.S. blockade for stalled deal. And Nepal suffers a 2-wicket defeat in the semi-final of the Asian Games qualifier to face China tomorrow for 3rd-place playoff. That's it for the moment. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries.
Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it.
NTV World. Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
The country wakes up with the first touch of sunlight kissing the Antudara in eastern Nepal. Antudara in Ilam district is the pride of
Kosi province.
Nepal's eastern
Kosi province
spreads across 26,000 square kilometers and has 14 districts. Taplejung, Pastar, Ilam, Jhapa, Sangkhwasava, Terathum, Dhankuta, Morang, Sunsari, Solukhumbu, Bhojpur, Udaipur, Khotang and Okhaldunga make
Kosi province.
Though the province is an ethnic mix, the predominant inhabitants are Brahmin, Kshetri, Tamang, Sherpa, Rai and Limbu.
Kosi province,
with the capital Biratnagar, is geographically very diverse. The province boasts the highest peak in the world, Mount Everest, to the lowest land in the country, Kechana Kabul. The local lifestyle and landscape of Namche Bazaar the gateway to Mount Everest, Lukla Bazaar and Everest Base Camp are incredible. Over 24 mountain peaks above 7,000 meters, including the Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Varun, Lhotse, Choyu, Tuplase, in addition to the Mount Everest, make the roof of the province. The potential of tourism in the province is also as high as the Mount Everest. Country's largest Saptakosi, along with Mechi, Arun, Tamur, Kankai, Likhu are the major rivers in the province. These rivers are the lifeline of the people since time immemorial. Recently started motorboat on the Koshi River is opening doors for tourism while easing the life of the locals at the same time. Situated at just 70 meters above the sea level, Kechana Kabul in Jhapa is the lowest point in the country. This place of national importance needs more promotion, and expectedly some programs are being undertaken. The world-renowned Kosi Tappu Wildlife Reserve, Sagarmatha National Park, Makalu Varun National Park and Kanchenjunga Conservation Area are some of the major attractions in
Kosi Province.
These protected and conserved areas serve as the museum for those interested in wildlife, flora and fauna, wetlands and biodiversity. The number of people thronging Antudara in Ilam around the calendar to watch the sunrise is increasing by the day. The symmetrical tea gardens of Kanyam cannot be described in words. Prosperity along with natural beauty is the speciality of the province. No foreign or domestic tourist returns disappointed from this place. Mai Pokhari and Sandakpur in Ilam are some of the other destinations for tourists. Sandakpur is probably the only place in Asia from where one can enjoy the panoramic view of around 60 mountain peaks. Ilam also is famous for its organic produces, including allo or the giant nettle, milk, broomgrass, red hot chili, and cardamom. The hill station or Bedetar along the border of Sunsari and Dhankuta, Namaste waterfall in Dhankuta, Hile Bazaar, and Todke waterfall are some of the other destinations for tourists. The 90 feet tall Namaste waterfall, just 10 kilometers away from Bedetar, is attracting many tourists of late. TMZ or Tinjure, Milne and Jaljala area in Therathum is branded as the capital of rhododendron. The area boasts 28 species of the national flower. This area also generates interest among explorers and researchers. The 365-meter tall Hathung waterfall is the tallest in Asia and the pride of Nepal.
Kosi province
is ahead in terms of infrastructures and facilities. Standard hotels are found in almost all places in this province. The province has 11 domestic airports. Most of the destinations are accessible and connected by highways and roads. The Pathivara temple, situated at 3,794 meters above the sea level, is the combination of spirituality, natural beauty, and tourism. This is one destination in every Nepali's bucket list. The blooming rhododendrons in the spring and snow-white terrain in winter keep the tourism interest alive around the year. There are many other similar religious sites in
Kosi province,
Halesi Mahadev Temple and the Basaha Cave of Khotan. Budasubba Temple in Dharan of Sunsari. Barha Kshetra of Sunsari. Mini Pathivara of Vilam. Arjundhara of Jhapa of the Mahabharata myth. The Taksar Bazaar of Bhojpur is another destination not to be forgotten in the list of tourism destinations in the province. History dates the first minted Nepali coins in this place. Those copper coins are still found in Taksar. The small hamlet is a perfect destination to see the Eastern Nepali lifestyle.
Kosi province
is equally rich in its unique culture and traditions. In addition to the major festivals celebrated by the Brahmins and the Chetris, different ethnic groups like Tamangs, Sherpas and Magars rejoice in Losar. The Shabru dance of the Sherpas, a special ritual in Losar, is internationally renowned. The Udoli and Uvoli of the Rise and the Dhan dance have their own religious and scientific importance. The Tarai Plain of Province 1 is the breadbasket of Nepal. The fertile soil is perfect for agriculture. Tea gardens from the lowland of Japa to the height of Solukhumbu are some of the major cash crops here. These tea gardens also attract numerous tourists in the region. Province 1 is definitely a museum for tourism. The natural beauty, religious heritages, abundance of natural resources, cultural diversity, and many more. Each and every hamlet and settlement, hills and mountains, rivers and ravines in the province have their own unique identity and speciality.
Welcome to Creative Forum with me, Shivani Thapa Bosnet. In our last episode, we spoke of the soul of the image. Today we look at the machinery behind it. How do stories across borders? How does a social media algorithm change the way a family in Kathmandu or Paris sees themselves? Joining me today are two masters of the global narrative. Mr. Wang Butao, a veteran journalist and the deputy director of CGTN French, who has captured stories in over 30 countries. And Dr. Jennifer Kuhl, a visual anthropologist from the University of Southern California, who decodes the complex intersection of culture and technology. You are here in Kathmandu for NIF 2026, the Nepal International Film Festival, right? A city and then this prestigious film festival, both full of stories. Could you share what has captivated you most since your arrival here?
First, because the weather here, the climate is very delightful. Because coming from Beijing, in this season is normally very cold. But now here, I feel very warm, like 20 degrees. It's not hot either. and the air is fresh, the sky is blue, so the breeze, the spring breeze feels very comfortable. And secondly is the people here in Kathmandu are incredibly hospitable. This is really, I don't know if it's because I'm Chinese, you're receiving a special treatment, or if so, I feel very honored. If you treat everyone like this, I have to say that you are truly a nation of hospitality, and I have to congratulate you on that. I can give you several examples. When we came out from the airport yesterday in the minibus, which took us to the opening ceremony venue, we saw some school girls sitting in a roadside shop. They waved and smiled at us. That really gave us much warmness in our hearts. And as soon as we arrived to the opening ceremony venue, and people came to offer us colorful kata scarves. And then during the opening ceremony, our names are repeatedly cited by the host and as a distinguished guest, and we feel really very, very flattered. And now it's just the second day, and I'm already invited here. It's just amazing.
Right, hospitality is encoded in our culture, right? So for us, guests are synonymous to gods. Dr. Kul, what does your experience say so far of Kathmandu and Nep?
Yeah, I've been to Nepal before last, but it's almost 37 years since I last was here, and it just was so heartwarming to see. It's very modern, but it is echoing the traditional architecture of Nepal with the wooden slats and just sort of the proportions, and to see that everywhere, including at our hotel. It's nice to see Kathmandu is modernized, but it hasn't lost the look of the Kathmandu that I remember from the 80s.
Do you have any recollections from back then? Because as far as I know, you're very small, and I could see those very beautiful pictures with your parents.
That was when I was first here, but they came back. They were stationed here again in 1980. So 86, I came here when I was in college. I remember going to Indrachok to get beads. And I remember a famous painter, a Tanka painter, Bibi Thapa, and seeing his studio. So yes, I have many memories from the 80s, and it is much different, bigger buildings. The idea to have Wi-Fi everywhere, but it's very rare to have all this level of modernity alongside still very distinctive Nepali flavor. Atmosphere, the looks, the art, all of this. I went near our hotel is the Garden of Dreams, and it's just very beautiful. So all of those are positives, and then I kind of laugh because I'm still, having grown up abroad, I don't often feel American, but in Nepali traffic, I feel very American because it's scary to me. And it's not just driving on the different side of the road. I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, crossing the street.
The only way to escape is to live here for some time unless you get used to it.
Yeah.
Over 22 years, Mr. Batao, you've traveled across continents, right?
Yes.
From Europe to Africa, America, and Asia, of course. So in your experience, what makes a story truly resonate across cultures?
I think it's humanity. This is the most important thing for me in any kind of creation. Actually, when we talk about cinema today, we can see that more and more modern technology are used, and people start to use AI too. But for me, the most important part in cinema is really the side of the humanity. Is the story. Is the story which really touched the heart of people. Anyway, for me, if I go to a cinema to see a movie, I don't go there to see all these special effects or things like this. I go there for a story which will touch me. So I think whatever the form of the art that you create, the most important part is to show the humanity.
From an anthropological lens, how do a cultural context, especially the social norms and technology, help shape the way stories are received, and how do you think they should be told?
I guess the it's the question that you had asked my colleague Batawa here about, I think there are certain human universals, and certainly we were one of the categories I'm on the jury for is national shorts and national documentaries. So things like family, as you said, things you can identify with, but the sort of the idea of people suffering and longing for something. If you can relate, we can all relate on that sense. I don't think technology changes the what. It changes the how, yes. But the essence, the story, the soul, and something that people can connect to, that's got to be the heart of it. And sometimes it's harder with cross-cultural, but I don't really think so, because I think oftentimes when something is abstracted and it's not familiar, then you can see the humanity instead of knowing, oh, it's those people, right? To have a little distance can actually humanize.
Can you share a story from your travels, both of you, or from your research maybe, that stayed with you because it bridged cultural divides?
April 1st, I went to Bodha because there I had my parents to commemorate. Both had passed away and they both loved Nepal. So I went there. There was the Tamil Jatra festival to honor passed away relatives, and everybody there was so kind. I was putting the offering in the wrong place, and somebody who she saw me and she just took my hand and put like that, and there was no I didn't know what she was speaking Nepali or another language. We didn't use words. She just gently corrected me, and the eye contact. So that was really quite nice, because it was quite crowded and you have to go up and down stairs, and I didn't have fear of falling or just performing the puja wrong, because people just help you be right. So that's sort of this cross-cultural feeling. Which, yes, I think it's definitely in the Nepali spirit, and also because there's so many tourists, you have a lot of people who are lost and don't know how to do it the right way. So the patience was much appreciated.
It was a travel that from the Casablanca in Morocco to the capital of Rabat, and I don't remember why. There was a train actually which took me to the capital city of Rabat, but I didn't know why, but I still remember that I rented a car because maybe it's because it was too late at night and there was no more train, so I had to go to the other city, which was the capital city, to cover a very important event. So I had a car, a private car, with a guy, a local guy, who spoke only Arabic.
Okay.
And I spoke at that time Chinese, English, and French, but not Arabic. So I still remember, and he drove the car nearly 2 hours from Casablanca to Rabat. And all the way along, I was quite scared, because he drove the car always in the absolutely darkness. I was really very worried. Sometimes I told myself, will he take me to a place and then kill me and kidnap me? Because we couldn't communicate between us. He couldn't understand me, I couldn't understand him. But I just showed him where I shall head to. And still, without the possibility to communicate in our language, still we try to make us understood by gestures, or sometimes we play a piece of music, then he tried to get out some words in French and things like this. And we had a wonderful night together. Finally, because actually to lower his cost, he didn't pick the highway. He chose a very small, a narrow way, which is even darker. So I was really, really scared. But finally, everything ended very well. He took me to the much brighter city of Rabat, and I paid him. And this memory, I think, will still today every time when I think of my career, I can think of this guy.
So the next time you decide to go back, you'll want to learn Arabic.
Yes, probably. Yes.
Dr. Jennifer, in scenarios like this world is huge, beautiful, so much diversity. How do you see the role of cinema bringing the world together?
Certainly sharing stories, learning, that things can look very different on the surface, but that the actual emotions that we all share as one species. Obviously, emotions are shaped by culture, but beneath that, I mean, as I try to teach in my introductory class, that there are very small set of basic needs, and culture is many varieties of ways, endless varieties of ways to solve those needs. So we have families because humans are born helpless. They can't just raise themselves, but there are many different arrangements of families, and that's that sort of thing. So I think cinema certainly was the sort of the defining art form of the 20th century. It's become something different in the 21st century. I remember, since media and technology is sort of my field, when new media, and I worked in new media for so long, I used to joke, how can they keep calling it new media, because I've been working in it for over this many years. Cinema, that's linear cinema, it's so passé, we're going to be non-linear. And I just sat quietly, because it's like saying, well, now we have computers, who needs poetry? You need poetry as much or even more. So we see that people don't want to be interactive. You want to go and sit down and have a story told to you. Cinema is already interactive because you are the reacting person, and no two people see the same film. That's why I'm really looking forward. We have our jury meeting later, and I'm not looking forward to arguing for what I think, but learning what films other people saw the same film, they saw different things. So for me, I mean, cinema has a new place in the world of social media and YouTube and this kind of thing. But there was a lovely a lovely film made, and actually it was connected to Nepal. It was a Tibetan monk returning. But the name of that film is the name of the film is "Films Are Dreams That Wander in the Light of Day," and that's, I think, to me, my favorite movie title ever. So we can dream together, what could be more intimate?
Right.
I think the biggest magic of cinema is the power of image. I think, for example, this time I took with me my first documentary as a producer, which tells the story of 6 children in the Xizang autonomous region in China. And these, students, they go to boarding schools, and we work with the French director Jacques Malater, and he was in every scene he shot, and he communicated. He lived with these children and exchanged with them, and there were many language barriers, because not only between Chinese and French, because the director is a French guy. He doesn't speak neither Chinese or Tibetan. So there was a lot of language barriers. But finally, when you go to see this documentary, the final version, and you will see that many of the emotional scenes, that we don't need language, because it's just direct. It just goes, it touches the very profound part of your heart. For example, with these 6 kids, every time in the end of each episode, there is a scene of farewell. I think this is just universal. People know that someone who cries with you for some time and then have to leave you. And at that time, no need any language. People just see, the sadness. Yeah. It's just, I think this is the greatest magic of cinema.
Yes. On the topic of technology, though, something you said spurred the recollection. One thing that technology is unmitigatedly great at is the new ease of subtitles, right?
Yes,
and that you can have the separate SRT files. And I mean, it used to be very difficult to burn it in, a cost. So the fact that people can just take a transcript and you show the same film and drop in the separated text file is beautiful. The explosion on Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of those OTT streaming services in the U.S., now we can see global cinema in the U.S.
Exactly.
And the barriers are down, and I credit foreign cinema for and other things of technology. People used to, and when I was in film school, people used to say, "Oh, subtitles. You go to those foreign French films. Oh, I don't go to read. I don't go to read." And now people are happy to read, and people even in their own homes with English programs put on those subtitles. So that, I think, I mean, people who the purists who want only image may be not happy, but it makes us feel we can all.
Exactly. Language in today's world is not a barrier at all, because and thanks to forums like NIV, Cannes and all the film festivals, and of course the subtitles, we have to be thankful to them, because today in Nepal, if you talk about Nepal, young generations, they know Korean, they know Turkish, they know Iranian language by virtue of the subtitles and the films that they watch on Netflix and on all the portals, right? Staying with technology, Dr. Jennifer, you've studied ethnographic storytelling, right? And media ecology very, very extensively. How do you think has social media changed the way communities narrate their own stories?
That's a very big question. Certainly, it doesn't replace, when you talked about ecologies, I think it's really important that one thing doesn't replace the other, that we still have pencils and pens, they come in handy just because there are computers. So, I mean, I think social media is a different thing. I don't know that it's all about community, because I always think, how do you define community? It's a very broad, there's a lot of literature about that. Even thinking about the Max Weber, the famous sociologist, talked about the community of the streetcar, or just as I was talking at Boda, that's the community of people that are going to make the observance. It can be fleeting. It doesn't have to be permanent or that kind of thing. But I think social media, it can compete in a lot of ways, but then also connecting, so people can hype is one word for it, but also say, hey, share is another word for it. So it's much more tricky in terms of getting the word out. And there are some, as a scholar, you're often critical to worry about sort of the competition for attention. We still have the same number of hours in the day. We still have the same nervous system that was really built, for Neolithic times, thousands of years ago. So I think that there are dangers. But as long as, going back to the opening ceremony yesterday, they were talking about future forward, but keeping memories. And so I think that there's that give and take with the question you asked me in terms of the effect of social media on cinema. Some positives, but also we have to, with our eyes open, see that there can also be challenges.
Does this present any sort of risks on the authenticity of the stories that are coming?
Of course. There's a huge risk. As I work for CGTN, and I can tell you that this documentary that I brought here was my first documentary. During my first 20 years of career, I worked mainly on journalism. For example, in the journalism, we are strictly forbidden to use any kind of AI technology. Anyway, in the TV channel where I work, there are very strict, code to forbid this, because or else people don't know if it's true or false. But I think for those creation parts, I think we can use this kind of new technology or social media. I think is rather beneficial. It can bring us a lot of powerful and efficient tools to, for example, to not only lower the cost but also increase the efficiency of our production. I think on this side it's a good thing. But for me, I just followed several days ago, the French annual cinema festival, which is César, the French César. I see that in France, people also, these people who really have a strong love for the traditional cinema, when they are on the stage, they all called for people to get back to the cinema, to see the big screens. I think this is, sometimes I feel a little bit sad too, because I think maybe with the social media, people spend our days, lying in bed and just scrolling the short videos. Sometimes it's a little bit sad, especially for those who make cinema of great quality, and they spend their whole life to produce quality, high quality, and very good movies, and then sometimes people don't go to the cinema. They go there, less, and sometimes people just lie on their bed and they use a platform like Netflix, and they can see any movies they want. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe for the TV, or not only for cinema, for the TV, the profession that I execute is the same thing, because people don't watch TV anymore. They watch TV shows, they use their phone.
Yeah.
So
right here, I would want to ask, as a producer and as a journalist working in a transnational, television,
yes.
how do you even, balance this immediacy and spectacle of global media?
We don't have the choice, because most of the people now use an iPhone. We use smartphone. So our strategy is now much more oriented to all these digital, side. So when we create, when we do something, make a report, sometimes the first platform that we broadcast is not our TV screen, it's the platform of social media. So this is what we do to take this challenge, because we don't have the choice, because when nobody opens their TV, it's I don't know, it's a little bit sad, but it's the trend. No one can stop that trend. I don't know what shall we do, but maybe if you see these things from another side, maybe it's a good thing, because there are still people who go to cinema.
Let's talk craft here, Dr. Batao, Mr. Batao. You launched the reality TV show. I'm not sure if I would pronounce this right, the name of the Français, right? And you also produced documentaries like Learners from the Top of the World, and then there is China, Africa 2035.
Yes.
Really interesting pieces. Now, what exactly do you look for when deciding which stories to tell and which stories will travel, beyond borders? How do you even decide that?
For any kind of creation work, the most important part is the humanity side. For the documentary that I brought here, for example, as I said, we showed the lives of 6 children of Xizang, 14 years old. And I, as the chief producer of this project, I went there only once during the beginning of the project. And then I had a lot of work to do, in the headquarters. So it's the executive team who went there during nearly 2 months. It's really tough work. But finally, when I see the movie, the touching part of this documentary is really all these emotions that are shown here. Especially for me, it's even more special, because I have myself a daughter of 14 years old. So when I see these boys and girls of 14 years old on the plateau of Xizang, actually I found out that through the camera of Jack Malater that they are actually like my daughter, exactly the same thing. So it touched me a lot.
Dr. Jennifer, from a filmmaking perspective, especially in ethnographic storytelling or work, how do you decide between observation and narrative intervention? How do you stay true to your subjects while crafting a very compelling story?
Well, in terms of the trend of ethnographic cinema, we have for the last 20 years at least moved towards more participatory, rather than extractive filmmaking where there's the separation of people on either side of the camera. Now it is seen as more collaborative. because that's always how it has been. It's just to acknowledge that.
In your opinion, what do you think is the single most important principle the young storytellers, whether it is journalists or whether it's filmmakers, should hold on to today?
Don't forget the past. I mean, I am not as rosy-colored about the technology, perhaps, as we are sounding, especially when I hear that you're saying the same thing that I hear out, is that we don't have a choice. And then I'm always worried about, well, then where is this power? Because if it's not the power from the people, then where is it coming from? But I do have a lot of faith if you don't forget the past, because this has been the gift of humanity, is that we don't have to discover everything for ourselves. We have from previous generations, from 200,000 years, there's been humanity. We've been writing things and teaching things, a little bit less than that time, but particularly in a country like Nepal with such a distinct and rich and diverse cultural heritage. Yes, your grandmother, your parents might not understand social media, but they know things worth knowing. I would say that to the youth. Give us some grace, as my students say, and listen to the old people, because they won't be here forever.
Your 2 cents for young filmmakers and storytellers.
I learned a lot from the French director Jacques Manitas. I think he is a documentary filmmaker, but he is a sort of also like a sort of anthropologist, because his favorite topic is just about human history, is about these minorities, living conditions around the world. So I learned a lot from him. Jacques Manitas is a great documentary filmmaker in France. He's even rewarded the National Order, of the Knight of the National Order. So I think the key of the success is he really respects the people. I think this is very important. I can give you an anecdote. In one of the shooting, a girl in the second episode had a fight with her father, because maybe she made some mistakes in her homework, and her father blamed her, and then the little girl, she got a temper. She elbowed her father, and then in the final version, after that, the picture moved to another scene. It's like it's finished. But my team told me that actually what happened that day is that the fight didn't calm down after that, even got bigger. And the girl, she ran away, and she hid herself in a corner of that village. And my team told us that actually their camera wasn't turned off. They recorded everything here. And our Chinese team said to ourselves that this might be a very good dramatic scene, that if we showed it out, it could be fantastic. It can increase the ratings. But finally, the director, he decided to cut it, because he thinks that this kind of scene, if it is shown on the great public, maybe one day it will hurt this little girl. So I'm really very touched. I'm really very touched by his this kind of humbleness and respect for people. If you want to make a good movie, you must learn first to respect all the people with whom you work.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful sharing that you just did. Coming to this part now, here I get to ask you a few quick questions, right? I'm going to throw you like common questions, just for fun. And I mean, like short answers, just first thing in your mind, you just throw it back to me, right? Shall we start? All right? Okay, a lovely one. One word for Kathmandu.
Amazing.
Diverse. No, that's a bad word. It's a bad word. Charmant in French, charming, but it's better in French. It's better in French.
Charmant.
Like the sound, the timbre of that. Wow.
Charmant.
All right, charmant. I love it.
Ça là, les petits bâtiments en bois, little buildings, wooden buildings.
Oh, wow.
But that's many words. Academics, we can't.
You can listen to as many attributes as you send my way. Coffee or tea while working?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Tea. Doodh wali chai.
Doodh wali chai. Wow, lovely.
It's
Have you tried
strange.
one? Have you tried one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I make it at home all the
really?
time. Yeah.
How about you? Tried Nepali tea?
Not yet.
A film you could watch over and over.
A French filmmaker, Chris Marker, called Sans Soleil, Sunless, which is a sort of a documentary. But also Werner Herzog, who's a great filmmaker, very well known. I'm sure many people have heard of him, but he's not a Hollywood style, but Aguirre, Wrath of God. That's a very powerful film. I haven't seen it in a while. But also, you know, I'm trying to think. I don't watch a lot of Hollywood films multiple times. I watch a lot of series multiple times.
Right.
In French, it's Adieu ma concubine. Adieu means farewell my concubine.
My concubine. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Actually, I did. There's a film called Hiroshima Mon Amour by a French director. It's because of you that I got the Francophone on my mind. That is a really gorgeous film. Or a Japanese film. I love the work of Shohei Imamura. He made a film called Vengeance is Mine. That one, I haven't seen it in a long time because it's not an easy distribution, but I would watch that multiple times.
I'll make sure I take note of all these. Morning person or a night owl?
I'm a morning person nowadays. If you have to shift, because if you're doing field work, you're at the whim of the people that you're living with, and I will stay up if I have to, but my normal rhythm is to be in bed early and get up at 4 or 5, so
right.
Morning.
Does your work allow this privilege to you every
It does, especially now that I am in the stage of life where I don't have to worry about waking anybody else up. Yes.
Right. How about you, Mr.
I'm a night person because of my job. I don't have the choice. Yeah, because actually I work in news, and with the time lag with all these countries which speak French. Every day I had to stay till very night to monitor what is happening in the world.
So, favorite storytelling tool: a camera, pen, or voice?
Well, I mean, if you have the attention of people, a voice. But I would say editing is the best. That's where films, you know, they say films are written multiple times. The screenwriter writes it once, the director is writing it again, but the final say is the editor. So I would say, you know, any kind of a good editing program, and, you know, my favorite was cutting by hand, but that's gone, and that's fine. You know, that way I don't have to worry about spilling coffee on stuff.
For me, camera.
Camera.
Because I work on TV, and I am really sure that maybe TV will disappear one day, but camera will never.
A city that feels like home. Both of you travel intensively, right? So a city that feels like home.
Los Angeles, California, because it has the world. It just sort of I mean, that's what makes, you know, that's the strength of America. The real strength, all the people, the immigrants that make it so. But Los Angeles is just a very expansive city. Nobody thinks it's beautiful, and it loves every other city. We're always saying, like, oh, when I lived in San Francisco for the .com years, I did my work there. When I was leaving, people were like, why are you leaving? Where are you going? Los Angeles. They made these faces, and I was like, well, I'm going to... And then when I arrived, I got in the cab at Los Angeles Airport, and I was telling the cab driver, oh, I'm moving here. Oh, where are you coming from? San Francisco. And he looks in the rear view and looks at me and says, oh, that's a beautiful little town. We have an expansive heart for all the other cities in the world, and that's why I love it.
For me, maybe Paris. Because I spent maybe a very precious part of my life there from 2008 into 2011, and this is really a lapse of my life which is very precious. Like the American writer Hemingway said that you will never forget Paris because it's a moving feast. Paris is a moving feast. And every time now when I travel to Paris for professional purpose, as soon as I got down get off the airplane, it's really felt like home, because everything to me is that familiar. I spent a part important of my youth there.
Right. Just a curiosity, Mr. Batao. I mean, no judgments here. How did French happen to you? Because I don't recall meeting a Chinese who speaks French and speaks French better than the French themselves.
Yeah,
so
maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm sort of predestined to this language and this culture. When I was in a college, middle school, high school students, and then we got to choose our major in college. I like it, learning foreign language, and I'm very interested in this all these exotic things in foreign countries. So because you know that in China everyone learns English since a very young age, but if I continue to learn English, I think that's not cool. So I told me that why not another language, and then this language is maybe for a boy of 18 years old. He sounds really sort of romantic or exotic. Oh. So I picked it just by accident like this, and now it becomes my whole life, love.
Right. Let me come to one of my favorite questions. Silence in cinema or music?
You gotta have a reason for both. One thing I will say is silence is never silence in the cinema. It's never nothing. You need something to emphasize that it's silent. Some different, the cliche is the door squeak or something. But you need a small sound to show the larger silence. Music can be great, but it's a great deadener. An ethnographic film especially, it's what that Mark said, religion is the opium of the people, and I tell my students music is the opium of a bad cut. If you have a good cut, it can work in silence. But what could be more, some of the films in the festival, particularly the national shorts, I was so impressed by how they used song as a story element. Because songs are a lot of the films are celebrating village culture, family life, and there are appropriate songs. So there is nothing, I'm a Generation X of the Walkman, and the greatest thing about the Walkman is not that you can shut your parents from talking to you, it is more that you're in a movie, right? It's like Bollywood, and you're dancing because you have your own soundtrack. So there's no question about the power of music. So I would have to say in that battle, music wins. But if it's a matter of educating my students, you have to have a reason for the music, and it should be a motivated music, not just a cliche music.
Sometimes silence is powerful. They're very, very powerful. I remember one of my favorite scenes in the cinema is a film from Jia Zhangke, Chinese director Jia Zhangke, which means the title is The Mountains May Depart or Apart, the English name. And I still remember that there is a scene in which the main character, the lady, and his father were in a railway station, and the girl, she went to a shop to buy something to her father, who was sitting on a bench, right? On a long bench. And when the girl got back, he found that her dad is already passed away. Has already passed away. And at that moment, it was a total silence, and it was very powerful. Not a single word, just a picture, still, and the spectator can feel the strong shock and sadness.
Momos or samosas?
Well, we're in Nepal. I better say momos.
Me too, momos. Even if I haven't have the chance to test it.
But I make a good samosa.
It's a protocol that you do
of
try
course,
momos.
yeah, I will try. I will try.
As long as we can eat it with our hands, because it's too hard with chopsticks.
Oh yes. You're free to use chopsticks, forks, hands, right? But it's a protocol.
I'll test it this evening.
Right. Thank you so much. It was lovely.
Thank you so much,
having us.
Right. It's such a pleasure.
Indeed. Thank you so much for coming over and sharing your insights.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Today we have glimpsed the world through many lenses, from the bustling studios and the experiences that are coming from CGTN to ethnographic narratives. Stories are more than content. They're bridges, they connect continents, cultures and hearts. And to our audiences, the stories we tell and the stories we carry are what keep us human. And Creative Forum is where we talk about the humanness through arts and talks and conversations.
Nepal is a cultural, religious and a natural heaven for tourists with various adventurous attractions on offer. Nepal is undoubtedly one of the best tourism destinations in the world. Numerous UNESCO World Heritage Sites and conservation areas are some of the major attractions for tourists in Nepal. In addition, the natural, cultural and religious uniqueness of the country has been drawing a large number of foreign tourists. Every place on earth has its own geography, cultural identity, environment, food and lifestyle. They collectively become the identity of the place. Especially the places attracting tourists got to have their own diversity and uniqueness.
Madhya Province
is one such place with its unique cultural identity and geography. A historic province of Nepal, special for religious, cultural and trade activities, geographically total flat land, and the province with the pious land of Janakpur Dham. Some of the major destinations in
Madhya Province
are Janakpur Dham, Parsa Wildlife Reserve, Salhes Garden, Gadimai, Jaleswarnath Mahadev.
Madhya Province
has an illustrious past as the capital of the ancient Mithila kingdom with archaeological heritages of the era, cultural and religious destinations. The province has special importance in the overall trade and transit of Nepal with the entire province in the Tarai Plains. The province is very important for tourism in Nepal, though appears to be slightly backward in social, educational and health awareness. The province has 4 domestic airports. The under construction Kathmandu-Nizhgard fast track and the international airport at Nizhgard will definitely open doors for its prosperity through tourism. All the tourism destinations are well equipped in terms of infrastructures, but some await road network connection. The need to explore new destinations and promote the existing ones has been long felt. These are some of the major tourism destinations of Province 2, which draw hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. The Janaki Temple. The Janaki Temple, in the birthplace of Sita, the better half of Lord Rama, is a pious place for Hindus. The famous temple in itself is an epitome of ancient Mithila art and culture. The temple, built in Mughal architecture, is believed to have been built by the then Princess of Tikamani of Madhya Pradesh in India by spending over 900,000 silver coins, a whopping sum at that time. Thus, the temple is also known as Naulakha Temple. The construction of the temple took almost 17 years, from 1894 to 1911. The Janaki Temple is the pride of the Mithila and a cultural heritage. All rituals from birth to death are conducted as per Mithila culture in this place. Major religious fairs take place annually in Janakpur Dham, including on Ram Navami, the birthday of Lord Rama, full moon day of Nepali month of Asus, Kozagrat Purnima, Vivaha Panchami, and famous Jhula in Fagun. This massive temple is not just a heritage for Nepalese, but for all the Hindus across the world. Janaki Temple stands out as the place drawing most number of tourists in
Madhya Province
every year. Chinnamasta. The revered Chinnamasta shrine is at Sakhara village towards the southern border of Chinnamasta from Saptari's district headquarters Rajbiras. Chinnamasta is one of the revered shrines known for fulfilling worshippers' wishes. The shrine is about 10 kilometers drive from Rajbiras. Large number of devotees throngs the deity's shrine in Dasai festival. Of the religious tourists here are either domestic or from India. The history of Chinnamasta deity's shrine, with immense religious tourism potential, is connected to the history of Simrongarh. Parsa National Park. The Parsa National Park along the border of Parsa, Bara and Makwanpur districts is the youngest national park in the country. The earlier wildlife reserve has been transformed now into a national park. Parsa National Park is a perfect destination for those tourists interested in wildlife. The national park is well known for the local wild elephants. Parsa National Park is home to some exotic wild animals including the Barasingha, blue bulls and the Bengal tigers. Likewise, birds including very rare spiny babbler, cranes and reptiles like pythons are found here. The number of domestic as well as foreign tourists visiting the national park has increased after development of tourism infrastructures in the area. One can reach Parsa National Park in around 6 hours drive from Kathmandu. Spread across Chitwan, Makwanpur and Parsa districts, the Parsa National Park is home to some endangered wild animals and birds. The major attractions here are Bengal tiger, one-horned rhinos, wild elephants, leopards, Gaur bison or the Gaurigai, among others. Dhanusadham. The Dhanus temple at Dhanusadham municipality of Dhanusa district is an important tourism destination of
Madhya province.
Mythological belief says this is the very place where Lord Rama had broken the bow of Lord Shiva to win the hand of goddess Sita. It is believed that the Pinak bow of Lord Shiva broke into 3 pieces when Lord Rama tried to fix the string on it. According to the famous Hindu scripture Ramayana, one of the pieces went to the sky, another went to the netherworld, and one dropped on earth here at Dhanusadham. The Dhanus temple is just 15 kilometers drive from the Janakpur Dham. The name of the place has been derived as Dhanusadham from the legend of Ramayana and also the district known as Dhanusa. As per popular belief, the one who sees the piece of bow will be eternally blessed. Birganj is Nepal's major business center. Not just known for trade and commerce, Birganj of Parsa district also draws a lot of tourists. Gararwa Pond, Sankaracharya Gate, Ghantaghar are some of the other engagements for tourists in Birganj. Gariharwa Pond, the site of offering prayers to the sun god, is a sight to behold during Chhath festival. There is a temple of sun god in the middle of the pond. Gadimai. Gadimai is a revered shrine of deity at Bara district, known around the world for massive animal sacrifice every 5 years. The month-long religious fair takes place every 5 years. Gadimai is just around 8 kilometers drive from Kalaya, the district headquarters of Bara. Jaleswar Mahadev. The only temple in the world in Maltari district housing Mahashiva Linga underwater, center of faith of the Hindus, the gateway to Mithila. The attractions here are the Mahashiva Linga, the cave in the temple, and the annual fair on Sivaratri. One can reach here by easy road travel from Kathmandu to Jaleshwar. One can reach the Salahis Garden just 3 kilometers ride from Lahan Bazaar of Lahan municipality in Siraha district. Every tourism destination in
Madhya province
has its own speciality. Almost all these destinations are awaiting promotion, at the same time developing necessary infrastructure to promote tourism here has its own challenges. Tourism could be the road to prosperity for province too, if only the government pays little more attention in developing and promoting potential destinations. Compared to some other provinces, it has much higher tourism potential. Upgrading the dilapidated roads and highways is important, in addition to operating regular air services. The province and ultimately the country can reap the benefits of tourism if only the slogan of "guests are gods" can be better implemented.
Welcome to the new episode of The Hinterlands on NTV World. This weekly show brings together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal, takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. I am Rosina Rai and we will be leading you into this journey every week. Tonight on the hinterlands, we report on Nepal's Muslim communities' Eid al-Adha in various districts. School children in Bardia undertake dangerous daily journeys just to reach their classrooms. We also bring you coverage from Dai Lake district, where hailstorms and heavy rainfall have triggered a growing food crisis. In Baitari, efforts are underway to remove offensive and discriminatory settlement names. And at last, we present a detailed report on the slow progress in the implementation of official ethnic languages in Sangza. We begin with Eid celebrations across Nepal. On the day, the little over 5% Muslim population in Nepal exemplifies the social religious tolerance with a nationwide holiday on their major festival of Eid al-Adha. From historic mosque in Kathmandu to the densely populated district of the Tarai region, thousands gather to celebrate the festival of sacrifice. Vijita Bhandari brings this report on Eid celebrations across Nepal.
How does it feel to celebrate one of your major festivals as a religious minority? None other than Nepali Muslims can better answer this question. Constitutionally a secular country, Nepal has little over 5% of Muslim presence in terms of national population. But the festivities of not only Muslims but every religious ethnic community has gained national status and protected by the constitution. As the country rejoices in Eid holiday on Thursday, hardly a handful percentage is engaged in festivities. Also known as Bakr Eid, the 3 days of celebration is marked with prayers, family gatherings, shared meals and exchanges of Eid Mubarak. Muslims traditionally celebrate Eid al-Adha around 70 days after Eid al-Fitr, the festival marking the end of Ramadan.
Eid एक मुस्लिम का बहुत ही बड़ा पर्व होता है जिसके अंतर्गत हम सारे मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी के लोग एकजुट होकर मिलते हैं और गले लगते हैं। हमारा सबसे अच्छा और सबसे बेहतरीन पर्व में से माना किया जाता है। बकरीद में खास करके हमारे कुछ कुर्बानी के तौर पे खस्सी और तरह तरह के वस्तुओं जानवरों को कुर्बानी के तौर पे ऊपर वाले को जिस खुदा को हम लोग मानते हैं उसके सिद्धांत पे ये एक बनाया गया रूल है।
The festival also coincides with the annual Hajj pilgrimage in Mecca and is observed worldwide through prayer, communal meals, and acts of charity. According to Nepal's 2021 national census, Muslims make up more than 1.48 million people, which is over 5% of the population, making the religious community the country's third largest population. That community forms part of a much broader picture of diversity in Nepal. The country officially recognizes more than 140 ethnic groups and over 120 languages, with followers of Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Kirat and Christianity living side by side across the country. Researchers studying Nepal's social fabric often point to the way religious communities participate in one another's festivals and share common public spaces in daily life. That dynamic is also reflected in international studies tracking religious coexistence and tensions around the world. Despite the religious tolerance and harmony, some international think tanks have ranked Nepal into high restrictions category. This could have largely come up due to laws restricting forceful or unwillful religious conversion and proselytization. India and Pakistan also fall within the high category, while China ranks among the most restrictive countries in the world. But Nepal stands apart when it comes to social hostility linked to religion. On a social hostilities index by the think tank, which tracks religious tensions and violence involving private individuals and groups, Nepal falls within the low category. As families gather, prayers conclude, and communities exchange Eid greetings across Nepal, the spirit of Eid al-Adha resonates in every citizen, irrespective of their religion and ethnicity.
For many children living in Nepal's remote regions, attending school means overcoming dangerous and exhausting journeys every single day. They walk for hours through forest and isolated trails, often facing the risk of wildlife attacks, all in pursuit of education. Children in Bardia district face similar hardship. She is Samiksha Dangi, an 8th grade student from Thakela village, Ward number 9 of Bardia district, Nepal. Every morning at 8 a.m., she leaves home and it takes her nearly 2 hours to reach her school. Like Samiksha, 130 other determined students from same village who wish to continue their secondary education have no choice but to travel 5 to 7 kilometers through dense forest to reach Dharma Bhakta Secondary School in Katernia. Thakela and Katernia are neighboring localities situated near Bardia National Park in Bardia district, which makes the risk of wildlife attacks significantly higher. Their daily route is full of challenges, rough and narrow trails, constant fear of wildlife, and even greater danger during the monsoon season. Samiksa says that for schoolgirls, the journey is not only exhausting and filled with fear of wild animals, but also frightening because of encounters with intoxicated individuals along the way.
अब चाहिँ यो बाटो पनि कति छ किन आउँदाखेरि पनि अप्ठ्यारो हुन्छ एउटा कुरा त बाटो पिच पनि होस् अनि स्कुलमा सरले मिलाएर गाडी पनि हाल्दिने मतलब ढगलातिर.
Every day, these students risk their safety simply to attend a school. This is their reality, as the local village school only offers education up to grade 5. Despite these hardships, the children remain determined. However, their parents live with heavy hearts each day until their children return home safely.
समस्या छ बाघ आउँछन् भालु लाग्छन् कहिलेकाहीँ पानी पर्छ केटाकेटीहरुको पानी परेको बेलामा हावाहुरी आउँछ अनि फेरि रुख ढल्छ त्यो रुखको परछ एकदम त्यो पढाइ पनि कहिलेकाहीँ बिग्रिन्छ.
The school administration has repeatedly raised concerns about student safety with the local authorities and the provincial government. Yet, for more than 100 children in Takela village, the situations remain unchanged and their daily struggle to continue their education continues to go unheard by the authorities. Moving forward, a growing food crisis is emerging in the remote settlements of Naumule Rural Municipality in Dailik district. Locally produced grains are already insufficient to sustain families throughout the year. And the last month's hailstorm and heavy rainfall destroyed standing crops, leaving farmers deeply concerned about their future. Diksha Awasti have more on this report.
Jhala Thapa Magar and Amrita Sunar of Ward number 4 in Naumule Rural Municipality are currently facing severe hardship after last month's hailstorm and rainfall destroyed all their food grains and vegetable crops. They are deeply concerned about how they will manage food supplies for the entire year.
Alu bonda alu pani testy makai lagaeko testy ani feri ali पहिला लगाएको भोल पहिराले पुरी र मकै पनि छैन यस्तै माटो निस्काएर बालौटा मात्रै छ गौमा हाते हालिनम सबै बारीमै छोड्दिनु खुर्सानी पनि केही पनि छैन गौ कति धेरै गौ फलेथो अब त्यसका कोठराली भराने बेला भित्राउने बेला खाने बेला त्यस्तो लग्दैन त हामी अब किसान गर्ने खानेहरुलाई त धेरै दुःख लाग्यो.
They are not alone. Around 600 families across most wards of Naumule Rural Municipality have also suffered after hailstorms completely wiped out their wheat and vegetable crops. In the hilly settlements, where agricultural production is already low, locally produced food usually lasts only 3 to 6 months. Now, with all crops destroyed, farmers fear worsening food shortages and hunger. To support the worst affected families, social worker Mahendra Chand, who currently lives in the United States, distributed 170 sacks of food grains after learning about the crisis in his home municipality. Chairperson Chabi Subedi of Naumule Rural Municipality said the local government is also preparing to distribute food assistance to other remaining affected households immediately.
छुटेको लागि गाउँपालिकाको तर्फबाट हामीले न्यूनतम राहत वितरण गर्ने कार्यपालिकाको बैठक र विपद व्यवस्थापन समितिको बैठकबाट निर्णय पनि गरेका छौं.
After receiving food support through the Food Foundation in Naumule itself, local farmers said the aid has provided temporary relief from the food shortage. Every year, farmers in the hilly settlements suffer losses due to natural disasters. Locals say if the government implements compulsory crop insurance programs for farmers, it could provide at least some relief to those affected by recurring disasters.
Even today, some settlements in Sudur Paschim province continue to carry names considered offensive and discriminatory. In an important step toward social dignity and inclusion, local governments in Baitari district have begun renaming such places. Let's dig deeper with Subik Sarajak.
Even today, the names of some villages in Sudur Paschim province of Nepal are uncomfortable to pronounce. The reason is that the names of certain settlements were given in a manner that was outright demeaning. In recent times, however, such place names and even the names of some individuals have begun to be corrected. This settlement, that was once known by an offensive name, has now been renamed Dhungeokhal. This is not an isolated case. Most of the offensive names in the area have been revised. In the past, the Dalit Society Development Forum and various organizations working in the field of Dalit rights had already renamed the names of some places. When the use of derogatory words in both place names and personal names came to light through media coverage and social networks, the government issued directives allowing such names to be formally changed. Under this directive, Patan municipality in Boitari district launched a dedicated campaign to remove all such offensive names within its jurisdiction.
एउटा पानेपा 5 को बसन्तपुर कुलडा भन्ने ठाउँमा डिमौडा भन्ने नाम थियो दलित बस्ती ठाउँमा त्यसलाई हामीहरुले अब मैले भनौं न वडाको नाम सिर्जन टोल राखेको छ किनभने सिर्जना भनेको एउटा कला हो कलाकार सम्झेर जसले काम गर्छ कला देखाउँछ आफ्नो काम गरेर कुनै प्रस्तुत गर्छ बनाएर दिन्छ भने त्यो कला नै हो भन्ने हामीले सम्झेर त्यसलाई सिर्जन टोल राखेका छौं त्यस्तै विभिन्न टोलहरुका नाम पनि अब हिजोको दिनमा अपेलित नामहरु भएको हुनाले तिनीहरुलाई संशोधन गरेर नगरपालिका अहिलेको वर्तमान स्थितिमा अब संशोधन गर्नुपर्ने अवस्था देखिएका हुनाले पनि अब एउटा सम्मानको लागि पनि दलितहरुप्रति हामीहरुले उच्च सम्मान राखेको कार्यक्रम छ.
While Patan municipality is the only local body to have run a formal campaign including replacing signboards, other municipalities have also resolved to correct such names. Dogda Kedar rural municipality has made a decision to rectify offensive names and is currently in the implementation phase.
आर्थिक वर्ष 82-83 को नीति कार्यक्रम हामीले त्यो कार्यक्रम राखेका थियौं त्यो योजनालाई र हामीले कयौं वडाहरुको नामहरुलाई अनौपचारिक रूपमा हामीले प्रस्ताव गरेका छौं कतिपय ठाउँमा छलफलहरु पनि हामीले गरिसकेका छौं कुन टोलको नामहरु के राख्ने भनेर.
Although locals feel a sense of relief after the removal of demeaning settlement names, they emphasize that actual physical development of these communities is equally necessary.
अहिलेको पुस्ताको नजरले हेर्दाखेरि त्यो अब अलि घेना जन्डक आफुलाई नराम्रो फिल हुने जस्तो लाग्छ.
कला भन्थे ढोंखलाको अहिले ढोंगे ओखल राखेको छ अनि त्यो अझै बस्थे त्यहाँ पनि अब अर्जनपुर भनेर पहिला भन्थे अझौडा अहिले तिलगाउँ राखेको छ.
While the process of renaming villages is underway, the revised names have not yet fully taken hold in everyday usage among the general public. For this reason, the government must also formulate and implement comprehensive programs for the overall development of these settlements.
Did you know that several districts of Gandaki province, including Sangza, are home to significant Magar and Gurung populations? Acknowledging the fact, the province government announced nearly a year ago that Gurung and Magar languages would be introduced as official languages for government work in the province. The decisions initially generated hope and excitement among local communities, but as implementation slows, disappointment is growing among these two communities. Here we have last report on this episode. Many districts of Gandaki province, including Sangza district, have a significant population of both the Magar and Gurung communities. In the province, the Magar community constitutes 18.8% of the population, making it the second largest ethnic group, while the Gurung community accounts for 11%, ranking as the fourth largest. According to the National Census 2021, Sangza district alone is home to 57,278 Magar population and 34,448 Gurung population. Among the indigenous mother tongues spoken in the region, Magar is the most widely used language, followed closely by Gurung. Based on this demographic reality, the Gandaki Provincial Assembly officially passed a bill in 2025 recognizing the Gurung and Magar languages as official languages for the government administration alongside the Nepali.
हुन्न भन्ने आवाज सुनिएन तसर्थ गण्डकी प्रदेशमा मगर र गुरुङ भाषालाई सरकारी कामकाजको भाषाको रूपमा प्रयोग गर्ने सम्बन्धमा व्यवस्था गर्न बनेको विधेयक सर्वसम्मतिले पारित भएको घोषणा गर्दछु।
The legislative milestone fulfills a long-standing recommendation of the Language Commission of Nepal. The Gandaki provincial government's decision to introduce these languages for official use was initially welcomed with high expectations. However, nearly a year later, there has been little visible progress in the implementation. In response, language training programs have begun in various villages and local residents are preparing in anticipation of the language being officially adopted in government offices. Padam Gurung, chairperson of the Tamo Yo chose the National Council in Gandaki province, stated that the government policies and campaigns should only be introduced when they can be effectively implemented.
गण्डकी प्रदेश सरकारले गुरुङ र मगर भाषालाई आधिकारिक रूपमा चाहिँ अगाडि बढाए तापनि निर्णय गरे तापनि अहिलेसम्म कुनै किसिमको चाहिँ आधिकारिक धारणा आइसकेको छैन। सरकारको तहबाट चाहिँ यस्ता किसिमको धारणाहरू प्रष्ट रूपमा ल्याउँदाखेरि हामी अन्य नपरेका छौँ। तथापि तर हामीले जिल्लामा चाहिँ गुरुङ र मगर भाषालाई तयारी गर्ने कक्षाहरू चाहिँ सञ्चालन गरेर तयारी अवस्थामा बसिरहेको अवस्था छ।
Many members of these two communities appear disappointed with the authorities' level of seriousness. Despite this, the communities are preserving their rich cultural traditions and are taking various initiatives to safeguard them for the future generations. Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories are shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by the hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website, nepaltelevision.com, social media handles, and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.
Trimmed mustache, mirrored shades, and an unmistakable smile, Tenzing Norgay Sherpa climbs a steep hill in Khumbu. It's May 1991. After 38 years, he's returning to meet his old climbing partner, Sir Edmund Hillary, the man with whom he first stood atop the world.
Tenzing! Good to see you. My goodness. Well, yeah. Hi, Vicky. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Hi. Long time.
Yes, certainly. Did you have a good walk up?
Very well.
Good.
Fine.
Sagarmatha, head of the sky. Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world, or simply Mount Everest. A mountain with many names, yet for generations it meant only one thing: the impossible. Since the 1920s, climbers from around the world had tried to conquer it. Many never returned. Avalanches, storms, frostbite, the mountain refused them all. Then on 29 May 1953, Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa of Nepal stood together on top of the world. The world woke up to the headline, "Everest is conquered."
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. Mount Everest has been conquered by members of the British expedition. The news reached London in a message to the Times. It said that Mr. E.P. Hillary, a New Zealander, and Tenzing Bhutia, a Sherpa, had reached the summit last Friday, May 29th.
Among the 35 men in the team that made history was Kancha Sherpa, the last surviving member of that expedition. He passed away in October 2025. He remembered the climb as hard but joyful.
समुल्लोंगमु बना हामीले सुनेको छ हामी के काममा जाने त्यहाँ जाने कामै थिएन अब यहाँको मान्छेहरू चाहिँ तल लोबे जस्तोमा बस्छ त्यहाँबाट त हामी जाने कामै छैन अनि तेन्जिङहरू त हेरेर आएर पो माथि अनि एभरेस्ट चाहिँ हामीलाई थाहा पायो नभए हाम्रो गाउँै भए पनि हामीलाई के जाने कामै छैन गाह्रो भयो मलाई गाह्रो त के जानु नस्याङ्ने के अब कहिले पनि जस्तो काम गरेको छैन त पनि त बारी बोकेर त खरबासमा जानु पर्यो यहाँ हातमा डोरहरू समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ आइसा समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ बारी थुप्रो बोकेर जानु पर्यो अनि त साँगोमा जानु पर्यो अनि माथि जुल्रेर जानु पर्यो अनि गाह्रो त एकदम गाह्रो छ तर यस्तो काम पाएर धेरै खुसी भयो नि
Hillary loved Khumbu and Khumbu loved Hillary. He dedicated his life for the region and its people. In the decades that followed, Everest became a symbol of determination, not just for men, but for everyone who dared to dream. In 1993, Pasang Lamu Sherpa became the first Nepali woman to stand on the summit. Her journey was marked by courage and struggle.
पैसा हुनु पर्यो यसमा आफूले लगानी गरेर खर्च गर्नु पर्यो रोयल्टी तिर्नु पर्यो अब आफूले सँगै लानु ग्रुपहरुलाई चाहिँ खानाहरु हुनु पर्यो लुगाहरु एकदमै पैसाहरु हुनु पर्यो त्यसकारणले चाहिँ यो पैसाले नै पैसाकै समस्याले गर्दाखेरि पनि अगाडि बढ्न नसकेको हो तर यहाँ एउटा ट्रेनिङको महिलाहरुलाई चाहिँ यो माउन्टेन ह्याली क्षेत्रमा एउटा ट्रेनिङको व्यवस्था बन्दोबस्त पनि त्यति साह्रो राम्रो छैन.
For some, the climb is a personal test. For others, it's a way to uplift an entire nation. Of the many record holders from Nepal, Apa Sherpa, who's also known as the Super Sherpa, had reached the summit 21 times before announcing his retirement.
म यो रेकर्डको लागि चल्ने भए त म आज पनि चल्न सकिन्छु नि तर म रेकर्डको लागि होइन मैले हाम्रो देशको लागि हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि माथि पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसा भनौँ न अब पुरा नै हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि भनौँ पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नै पेसाको हो तर त्यो लास्टमा म चढिरह्यो भने त्यो त तपाईँको उस जस्तो देखिन्छ कि कम्पिटिसन जस्तो देखिन्छ कि मलाई त्यो मेरो चाहिँ नि त्यो कम्पिटिसन होइन र म राष्ट्रको लागि हो त्यसैले मैले अब 2011 देखि मैले सन्यास लिएर अपा शेर्पा फाउन्डेसन खोलेर शिक्षा सबभन्दा इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ के छ हाम्रो शिक्षा एजुकेसन छैन भने हामीलाई धेरै गाह्रो छ मैले खैराहरूले पनि भन्दैछु विदाउट एजुकेसन वी हेभ नो चोइस एजुकेसन इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ त्यसपछि हाम्रो वातावरण त्यसैले हाम्रो नेपालको लागि म त्यो दुईवटालाई जोडेर मैले सपोर्ट गरिरहेको छु.
Over time, the story of Everest has changed. Each climbing season now brings not only adventurers, but also income and impact. In 2024, Everest generated nearly 676 million Nepali rupees, almost 80% of Nepal's total mountaineering revenue. The fee for foreign climbers has been revised now to $15,000 each. So far, more than 8,000 summiteers of different nationalities have climbed Mount Everest. Many more aspire to reach the top of the world. To ease the pressure on Everest and promote other regions, the government of Nepal has opened 97 peaks that range from 5,970 meters to 7,123. One can climb these mountains in the Western Karnali and Sudur Paschim provinces without having to pay royalties. As voices increase for the need of having summited at least one mountain over 7,000 meters in the country before bidding for the Everest, these 97 peaks are likely to be training ground for summiteers. With success, Everest has also seen a heavy burden. In 2023 alone, more than 75 tons of waste were collected from the Everest region. This included plastic, metal, oxygen bottles, and even human waste. The mountain has also been plagued by fatal climbing attempts.
यसपालिको भन्दाखेरि त अब लास्ट इयरको पनि मरेको लासहरू अझै पनि छन् माथि बाटोमै पनि त्यो लासहरू देखे हामीले यो 8,300-400 मिटरमा बाल्कुनीमा त्यो लासहरू पनि अझै भइरहेछ र फोहोरहरू पनि सजकलमा पनि टन्नै फोहोरहरू छ पहिला हामीले अब शहरमा त आरोग्य सङ्घले पनि 2011 मा सफा त गर्यो त्यत्रो फोहोर ल्याए 10 टन फोहोर पनि धेरै नै ल्याएको त्यतिखेर त्यति ल्याउँदा पनि अझै फोहोरहरू चाहिँ एकदमै छ भनौं न टाइममा अब राज्यले चाहिँ किन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति व्यवस्था के अब कुन हिसाबले हुन्छ त्यो फोहोरलाई अलिकति तल ल्याएर अलिकति सफा गरे भने एभरेस्टको लागि अलिकति विदेशीहरुको लागि अलि राम्रो होला कि भन्ने चाहिँ हामीलाई लागेको छ.
Sagarmatha has taught the world to dream higher, but now she asks us to care deeper. The greatest climb perhaps isn't upward, but inward. "70 years since the first ascent, much has changed, but one thing has and will remain constant. Everest has and will continue to stand tall and keep challenging human abilities."
Sangham Sharanam The number of devotees collectively chanting, admiring and understanding these holy chants has reached 2 billion all across the world now. This implies that the population following Buddhism is increasing by the day. Buddhism rests upon the principle that one must be empathetic, kind, and exonerate towards all living beings. Love, brotherhood, and mutual harmony is the only way towards peace at present, when the whole world is entangled within warfare, fighting, and conflicts. Anyone seeking for peace can find it within themselves on internalizing the words and messages of Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha, also known as the Light of Asia, established himself as the preacher of Buddhism and enlightened the whole world with his message of peace, awareness, kindness, and wisdom. Buddha sacrificed his whole life urging for the need of truth, justice, and altruistic feeling within mankind. Gautama Buddha was born in Lumbini. It lies in the western part of Nepal in Rupandehi districts of the Lumbini zone. Lumbini has been protected under the World Cultural Heritage Site since 1997 AD. In the year 1896, the then senior officer of Palpa, Kharga Shamsher, and German expert Dr. A. Fuharer jointly carried out the work of archaeological excavation and investigation of Lumbini. After some period, archaeologists located the commemorative Ashok pillar erected by King Ashok of India during ancient period. With such facts coming in front, Lumbini caught attention of the people all around the world. Among the most significant heritages of Lumbini are Ashok Pillar and Mayadevi Temple. It is believed that Mayadevi gave birth to Siddhartha Gautam in 623 BC at the very spot where the temple is located at present. The then Mayadevi temple, however, remains only in the pictures and in imaginations. Renovation and repair works have already changed the original structure of the temple. Nevertheless, with the new structure, this temple has embraced a divine outlook in it. Not only the temple, but the whole Lumbini region is in the process of plan reconstruction and development. The visit of the then General Secretary of the United Nations Organization, U Thant, in the year 1967 brought together the notion of Lumbini Area Development Project. Under a master plan of the Japanese archaeologist Professor Kenzo Tange, the project was initiated in the year 1978. Lumbini Area Development Project Master Plan spreads in the area of 3 miles. Major attraction of this project is the Mayadevi temple premises. This holy garden has emerged as a peaceful, religious and spiritual hub as well as the center for tourists. This garden, located in the southern part of the temple, has assimilated a number of objects of archaeological and historical importance. The whole area appears magnificent, with a calm lake and beautiful parks. The temple displays numerous artifacts built in different centuries. These works shed light upon the historical importance of the temple. It is assumed that works of repair and renovation were carried out time and again since the reign of the Maurya dynasty till 8th century BC. The outer wall of the temple spreads 26 meters in the east-west and 21 meters in the north-south direction. During its excavation, 5 rooms in the east-west and 3 rooms in north-south direction were discovered. 3 of these rooms are square and the remaining 5 are rectangular in shape. There is an ancient Maya Devi idol showing the birth of Lord Buddha inside the temple. This idol is also known as the birth idol. The remains inside the temple date back from 5th century BC to the 7th century BC. Marker stone, alias birth stone, is placed safe above a Maurya period brick inside a deep room. This clearly depicts the exact place where Lord Buddha was delivered. This stone is around 25 steps north of the Holy Lake. Other evidential objects uncovered from excavations are kept as it is for devotees and other tourists to explore and to study. Ashoka pillar near to Maya Devi temple is believed to have been erected by King Ashoka in 249 BC during the 21st year of his enthronement. The Utkirna stone inscription engraved in this pillar in Brahmi script is a historical proof that Lord Gautama Buddha was born here. This is the most reliable historical and archaeological archive to learn about the birthplace of Lord Buddha as well as to explore Lumbini itself. A 5-stanza writing of 90 words written in Brahmi script, the first script that Buddha learned, is engraved in this pillar. Archaeologist Dr. A. Fuhara verified the writing in 1896 AD. This script attests huge and significant information about Lumbini. In the northern side of the Ashoka pillar lies Puskarini, or the holy pond. Legends say Maya Devi took the holy dip prior to the birth of Lord Buddha in this pond, and that baby Buddha too had his first bath. Architectural fragments of different size and shape collected from various excavations are protected in the southeast, northeast and western direction of the Maya Devi temple. On close examination of the temple, the tradition and technology of Maurya dynasty is revealed. Some monasteries are constructed using the remains of Lord Buddha, while some other incorporates the remains of his followers, and few others have been constructed in Buddha's reminiscence. These monasteries depict the then art, custom, religion and tradition. In the northern side of the Holy Garden, towards the center, lies the eternal peace flame, the peace bell and a 3-kilometer long and 16-meter wide canal. One can also view the World Peace Pagoda from here. The canal divides the whole area into two sections. Towards the eastern monasteries, 13 plots are designated to Thar Buddhist and 29 plots are allocated to Mahayani Buddhist in the western monasteries. In eastern region, various countries and Thar Buddhist organizations have constructed a number of monasteries following their native architectural texture. Myanmar, Sri Lankan, Indian, Cambodian and Thai government, including Nepalese, have constructed stupas and guest houses in these areas following the agreement with Lumbini Development Trust. Similarly, most of the western plots have been occupied with similar stupas, monasteries, guest houses and meditation centers constructed by various organizations or Government of Nepal, China, Vietnam, France, Japan, Austria, Bhutan and Mongolia, among other nations. In these monasteries, Buddhists perform their regular worship, enchantments and meditations according to their own customs. In the northern side of the new Lumbini village area is the 41.5 meter long and 49 meter cylindrical World Peace Pagoda. Fujiguru of Japan is said to have constructed similar pagodas in different locations all over the world during his journey of finding peace. World Peace Pagoda was designed by Japanese architect Dr. Minoru Ohuka. This pagoda came into operation since 1995. Built in traditional Japanese design, the upper part of this pagoda holds metallic artifacts exhibiting the birth of Lord Buddha. Lumbini Museum and Lumbini International Research Center are other important places to visit once one reaches Lumbini. These buildings, constructed in pagoda style, portray an architectural masterpiece in themselves. Inside Lumbini Museum, the archaeological remains found during the excavation of Lumbini area are preserved inside a large hall. One can easily gather information about the birthplace of Lord Buddha and the then contemporary society and culture exploring these heritages. Within the building, designed by Professor Kenzi Tange himself, Lumbini International Research Center has been established. More than 3,500 research materials and texts on Buddha, Buddhism, history, philosophy, knowledge, and teachings of Buddha can be found here. For the visitors' comfort, the center has provided the facility to read texts on different languages, including Sanskrit, Chinese, Japanese, Turkmen, Burmese, Thai, Nepali, and Nepal languages. There is an easy access of air as well as terrestrial transportation to reach Lumbini. The nearest airport to Lumbini is the Gautama Buddha Airport located in Bhairahava. One can also take roadways from different cities of Nepal to reach Lumbini easily. Situated in northwestern side of Kathmandu, Lumbini is 327 kilometers far from the capital. From the Indian border Sunauli, it lies in the distance of a mere 26 kilometers. Visitors can find ample bus, cabs, rickshaws, and other transportation means to explore the whole area of Lumbini. Accommodation in Lumbini is again not a big deal. There are a number of hotels, lodges, and restaurants ranging from expensive ones to medium and cheap motels in the market area. Within Lumbini area also, one can easily find guest houses, monasteries, and stupas constructed to accommodate the visitors. The overall development works of Lumbini is spearheading on the basis of Lumbini Development Master Plan. Lumbini Development Fund is effortful to accomplish Lumbini Development Master Plan and to protect and preserve the overall Lumbini area. If you are planning to travel the birthplace of Lord Gautama Buddha, the holy Lumbini, we cordially invite you to explore all these spots of historical and archaeological importance, all related to Lord Buddha. You can travel around to see the ancient palace of King Suddhodana, father of Lord Buddha in Kapilvastu, and the debris of the earliest capital of Shakya kings, Tilaurakot, still preserved with high importance. This palace is located around 27 kilometers far from Lumbini. Lord Buddha, as the prince, spent 29 years of his life in this palace. Prince Siddhartha Gautama abandoned the royal livelihood in search of Mahanirvana, or enlightenment. In the year 1898 AD, Indian archaeologist P.C. Mukherjee, following the description of Chinese traveler Hu Yansanga, and unveiled the unknown facts about Tilaurakot after his 4 months-long research and excavation works. He mentioned that the Tilaurakot Palace stretched in the area of 1,700 feet north-south and 1,300 feet east-west direction, was surrounded by walls up to 8 to 12 feet. The main entrance gate had Buddha stupas and monasteries in both the sides. All these buildings are under excavation and protection at present. Mukherjee has also maintained that King Suddhodana ruled his kingdom from the same palace. Hence, no doubt remains on the fact that the present Tilaurakot was ancient Kapilvastu. Archaeological debris as well as ancient palace and east-west entrance constructed since 4th century BC to 2nd century BC can be observed vividly now as well. Another historical site of Lumbini is Kudan, also known as Lauri Kudan, around 28 kilometers southwest of Lumbini. Myths have it that Lord Gautama Buddha met his father King Suddhodana at this very spot for the first time on returning to his hometown Kapilvastu after attaining enlightenment. Others say Prajapati Gautami, Gautam Buddha's foster mother, handed him Kayas Vastra at this place. Some others also claim that at this very site, Gautama Buddha's son Rahul transformed into Buddhism and turned a saint. Inscription held the existence of 4 walls and 1 buried well at this place. However, only 3 walls can be seen at present. According to Dewala Mitra, on the southern side of this lies one rectangular wall, and another wall has a snake temple on the top of it. In the largest wall, located at northeast direction, idol of Lord Shiva and the remains of other idols can be seen at the top. "500 meters north of King Suddhodana's palace lay 2 stupas. Experts say these stupas are the graves of King Suddhodana and his queen Maya Devi. The largest stupa has the area of 52 feet and is 75 feet high, whereas the smaller one has the area of 26 feet. The largest stupa is said to be constructed in the 4th century BC and was reconstructed 3 times during the 2nd and the 1st century BC. Similarly, the smaller stupa is believed to have been constructed in between the 2nd and the 1st century BC. Devadaha, that lies in Bhawanipur of Rupandehi, is said to be the maternal home of Siddhartha Gautama. Inscriptions say that Siddhartha Gautam spent 7 years of his childhood in Devadaha. Also, it is believed that he, upon attaining enlightenment, paid a visit to Devadaha. Devadaha is also popularly regarded as the maternal home of Queen Maya Devi, Queen Prajapati, and Princess Yasodhara. 10 idols are established in a single row in the eastern wall. However, the structure of all other idols besides one of the sun god in the center is unclear. This place, serving as an open museum, still needs a rigorous research and study to explore more about Kolya Kingdom. Ramgram Monastery has been constructed in the sidelines of Jharahi River towards 4 kilometers southeast of Parasi of Nawalparasi district. 7 meters in height, this monastery was constructed, establishing 1 metallic remains of Lord Buddha in its base. This monastery is one among the 8 monasteries constructed worldwide with the metallic remains in their base. This monastery was constructed upon the order of the king of Ramgram. He was the 8th king to receive the remains of Lord Buddha. Buddhist religious texts say that King Ashoka was in his mission of collecting remains of Lord Buddha from all 8 monasteries to construct the 84,000 stupas. But he was not allowed to extort the remains of Lord Buddha from Ramgram Monastery. Around 9 kilometers north from Tilaurakot lies a pond named Sagarwa or Lambu Sagar. The pond has high significance with regard to its archaeological value. This pond is popularly recognized as the spot where Koshal rural king Naresh Birudhak killed the thousands of Shakyas at the same time during the 5th century BC. Inscriptions have it that this pond extends 1,059 feet towards the length and 225 feet towards the breadth and was discovered in 1895 AD. However, only few remains and a mark of the pond can be traced here at present. Gotihawa is renowned as the birthplace of Manushi Krakuchandra Buddha. It is also said that Krakuchandra Buddha met his father at the very place after attaining nirvana. Debris of Ashoka pillar, ancient well, bricks and other remains can be retrieved in the buried form from here. Major Wada and P.C. Mukherjee excavated Gotihawa in 1895 AD and mentioned that Krakuchandra Buddha was born here. Aurora Court is an ancient town situated 8 kilometers northeast of Taulihawa. Aurora Court is regarded as the location of Kanak Muni Buddha, but scientific research is necessary to trace further facts of this town. Meanwhile, manuscripts have it that Niglihawa, 7 kilometers far in the northern side of Taulihawa, is the birthplace of Kanak Muni Buddha. It is the same place where he got enlightenment. They also say that archaeologist Dr. Fuhara discovered inscriptions in ancient stupas at this very place. In the western side of Nigli Sagar, one of the Ashoka pillars can be seen in 2 pieces. In an inscription written in Brahmi script, Pali language, it is mentioned that King Ashoka erected this pillar when he reached Kapilvastu. When he reached Kapilvastu Lumbini during the 3rd century BC. King Ashoka was said to be in pilgrimage. These pillars, 15 feet long, have engraved figure of peacock in one of the pillar and another has Om Mani Padme Hum carved in it. This holy land of Buddha has a large number of places and objects of historical and archaeological importance. Many are still under the grave of Mother Earth, left to be extracted and excavated. After watching this documentary about Holy Land of Lord Buddha, you need not reach far to realize peace. Reaching this sacred birthplace of Lord Buddha will be enough to experience eternal peace. This holy land is the source of world peace. Lumbini is the center of serenity and harmony among all the people in the world. World Cultural Heritage Site and Shakya sage Gautama Buddha's birthplace is a precious gift for the whole world.
453 Nepali nationals rescued from India's various locations brought to Rupandehi. Investigation also launched. Nepal's PM says government committed to implement women's rights, stresses on ending witchcraft, chopadi and gender violence. Nepal's upcoming budget focuses on middle-class relief with tax exemptions. Private sector welcomes a rise in capital expenditures. Hexet says U.S. not turning back on Asia allies but expects them to boost defense. Adds U.S. wants to avoid needless confrontation. No deal announced after Trump's meeting to make final determination on Iran deal. Iran blames U.S. blockade for stalled deal. And Nepal suffers a 2-wicket defeat in semi-final of the Asian Games qualifier to face China tomorrow for third-place playoff. Good evening, I am April Singh Lama and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. The details now. A total of 453 Nepali citizens have been rescued from various locations in India. The individuals were brought to the district police office, Rupandehi, after being rescued from different parts of Kushinanagar in Uttar Pradesh, India, where investigations have now begun. According to Rupandehi police, the rescued individuals are being examined to determine who among them are victims and who may be involved as perpetrators. The police have stated that the victims will be handed over to their families, while further investigation will be conducted against those found to be involved in wrongdoings. The rescue operation was carried out with the coordination and facilitation of the Nepali embassy in India. Preliminary findings suggest that an organized group lured Nepali citizens with promises of attractive jobs, transporting them via Sunauli to Kushinagar. Nepal's Prime Minister Balendra Shah has expressed the government's commitment to effectively implement the women's rights, gender equality and women empowerment. In a message of best wishes delivered on the occasion of 8th National Women's Rights Day, he noted the Constitution has guaranteed women's rights as fundamental human rights and ensured proportional and inclusive representation as well as meaningful participation in all state bodies. Prime Minister Shah stated that creating public awareness alongside legal arrangements was a must to eliminate ill practice such as child marriage, witchcraft, chopadi, dowry, as well as gender-based domestic and digital violence. This year, National Women's Rights Day, meanwhile, has been celebrated with the slogan, Respect for Women's Rights, Campaign for Self-Reliance and Prosperity. Nepal's budget of upcoming fiscal year 2026-27 has placed the middle class as its core, offering tax exemptions and concessions in housing, education and investment. On Friday, Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle announced a total budget of 2.124 trillion Nepali rupees and set a revenue target of over 1.4 trillion rupees. On the other side, the private sector has largely welcomed the budget, praising its focus on economic activity, investment promotion and relief measures for the middle class. However, some experts have cautioned that expanded tax exemptions could weaken the government's revenue base and make revenue targets difficult to achieve. We will look more into the Nepal's budget for fiscal year 2026-27 in our segment Issue of the Day later in the bulletin. Moving on, the U.S. military are not turning our backs on Asia while fulfilling global obligations such as the Iran war, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told the top regional defense forum in Singapore. Hegseth sought to reassure Asia-Pacific allies about U.S. commitment to the region, even as he reiterated calls for Asian partners to spend more on defense. While noting the threat of China's military buildup in the region, Hegseth also said the U.S. wanted to avoid needless confrontations.
This region has profound implications for U.S. security and prosperity. It's the world's largest and most dynamic market area. It's why our national defense strategy directs the Department of War to set the military conditions required to achieve a lasting and favorable balance of power in the Pacific region.
An advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Mohsen Razai, says the United States is betraying diplomacy by continuing its naval blockade. This came as U.S. President Donald Trump said earlier he will make a final determination on a deal with Iran to end the war, though Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson, Ismail Baghei, said that while the exchange of messages is continuing, an understanding has not been finalized. Iran says it is not negotiating on its nuclear program, insisting it is wholly for peaceful purposes. Nepal women's cricket team has a last shot remaining for the 2026 Asian Games after it suffered 2-wicket defeat to host Malaysia in a semi-final fixture of the qualifier event today. In the match held at Bayuema's Oval today, Malaysia successfully chased Nepal's target of 127 runs, amassing 127 runs with loss of 8 wickets in 18.4 overs. Earlier, after winning the toss and electing to bat first, Nepal scored 126 runs with loss of 6 wickets in the allotted 20 overs. Now, of the 6 teams participating in the qualifier, 3 are qualifying for the Asian Games in Japan. However, Nepal will now face China for the 3rd spot and aim to grab the only remaining ticket to Japan, where 5 other teams, Japan, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, have been waiting. Nepal's match against China tomorrow will kick off at 7:15 a.m. Nepal Standard Time. From tax concessions to business-friendly reforms, the government has said that its new budget is designed to drive economic momentum. Industry leaders are optimistic. However, the real test lies in turning announcements into action. We'll look into the details after a short break. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Welcome back. The government's budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27 has placed the middle class as its core, offering tax relief, housing incentives, education support and investment-friendly provisions. While the policy direction has been welcomed by some as growth-oriented, experts are raising concerns over revenue or sustainability, inflation control, and the absence of strong relief measures for low-income groups. This is the first budget introduced under the RSP-led majority government, which came to power following a strong public mandate calling for good governance, anti-corruption reforms, and accelerated development. Naturally, expectations were high. Shivani Thapa Basnet brings an in-depth analysis.
The budget for fiscal year 2026-27 has been presented as a reform-oriented financial roadmap with a clear emphasis on the middle-income segment of society. Tax exemptions, incentives for housing, relaxed investment policies, and expanded education-related benefits dominate the fiscal framework. On paper, it signals a shift towards strengthening purchasing power among the urban and aspiring middle class. However, economists argue that while the budget may sound attractive, it raises deeper structural concerns. They point out that the removal of certain tax bases combined with expanded concessions could make it difficult for the government to meet its ambitious revenue target of over 14 trillion rupees. At the same time, experts say the budget appears less responsive to the needs of low-income groups, particularly in areas such as food security, healthcare, education access, and direct social protection.
बजेटले चाहिँ अलिकता मूल्य बढाउँछ देखिन्छ जस्तै चाहिँ हामी मानौ तलबै बढ्ने कुरा आइराछ अरु कुराहरु ट्याक्सको कुरा पनि आइराछन् तर चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ कहिलेदेखि हुने हो त भन्दाखेरि असार देखि हैन को अन्त्यदेखि अथवा चाहिँ साउन 1 गतेदेखि हुने हो तर मूल्य वृद्धि चाहिँ आजभोलिदेखि सुरु हुन थाल्यो यो पहिलेदेखि कल्चर बनिरहेछ यो गलत हो हैन किनभने चाहिँ सधैँ बजेटले चाहिँ मूल्य बढाउँछ भन्ने हैन तर अहिलेको बजेटले अलिअलि के भन्दा हामी मध्यम वर्गलाई चाहिँ बढी फोकस गरिरहेका छौं मध्यम वर्गलाई फोकस गर्दाखेरिमा कता कता चाहिँ न्यून वर्ग चाहिँ हैन छुटे कि हैन उनीहरु चाहिँ बीचको ग्याप बढ्ने हो कि
Economists further warn that unless inflation is effectively controlled, the intended benefits of increased economic activity may be offset by rising prices in the market. Another long-standing challenge remains unresolved: capital expenditure execution. Despite repeated commitments in past budgets, effective implementation on development spending continues to lag, raising concerns about whether announced priorities will translate into real outcomes. Private sector investment, job creation, and inflation management are also seen as weakly addressed areas in the current fiscal plan, increasing uncertainty over delivery.
अहिले पनि उहाँहरूले लोकप्रिय कार्यक्रम ल्याउने कोसिस चाहिँ गर्नुभएको छ तर मैले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ तालमेल चाहिँ त्यति मिलेको जस्तो देखिएन एउटा तालमेल के मिलेन उहाँहरुको भने उहाँहरु त एकदम चाहिँ यसपालि त चाहिँ कडा हिसाबले बजेट अनुशासनतिर जाने होला अब थिति बसाल्ने भन्नुभएको छ भनेपछि त अब थिति बसाल्नको लागि त बजेट अनुशासनमा बिग्रिएको चाहिँ कुरा मूल कुरो त्यही हो हाम्रो भनेर त्यो सोचेको थियो त्यो हाम्रो भन्दा पनि झन् धेरै चाहिँ त्यो कमजोर खालको बजेट ल्याउनु भयो उहाँहरुले.
While the government projects optimism, analysts suggest the real test lies ahead in execution. Balancing tax relief with revenue collection, stimulating growth while controlling inflation, and ensuring inclusive development remain key challenges for the administration. For now, the budget appears to have offered relief and optimism to the middle class, but questions remain whether it can truly lift low-income citizens out of economic pressure, and whether the ambitious fiscal targets can be achieved without widening structural gaps.
Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle has presented a 2.124 trillion budget for the fiscal year 2026-27 in a joint sitting of the Federal Parliament. Coming at a constitutionally significant moment coinciding with Republic Day, the budget has immediately triggered nationwide reactions across political, economic and private sector circles. While the government projects 7% economic growth and aims to contain inflation at 6%, the fiscal plan has sparked a broader debate on feasibility, inclusiveness and execution capacity. We bring more in our next report.
The unveiling of the annual budget has set the tone for national economic expectation for the upcoming fiscal year. Economists are closely examining its reliance on deficit financing and questioning whether its ambitious revenue and growth targets are achievable. A major highlight is the strong focus on digital transformation. The government has prioritized digital public infrastructure, AI development, and IT system expansion, allocating over 5 billion rupees to the sector. Experts view this as a shift toward integrating Nepal into the global digital economy. The budget also proposes an AI computing center and fellowship programs to engage skilled Nepali professionals abroad, linking the 3 Ds: digital economy, diaspora, and demography. However, concerns remain about implementation capacity. In the private sector, sentiment is cautiously optimistic. Business leaders in key hubs like Birganj expect increased market activity, with Birganj Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Hari Prasad Gautam noting renewed trader confidence despite the budget's ambitious scale. In Kathmandu and other industrial circles, the response is broadly positive but conditional. FNCCI President Anjan Shrestha called the rise in capital expenditure a positive step for economic revitalization, while noting that even moderate infrastructure investment could boost private sector growth. Other business bodies echoed similar views. The Confederation of Nepali Industries welcomed potential reforms but urged stronger implementation mechanisms, while the Nepal Chamber of Commerce highlighted improved policy stability. The Nepal Land and Housing Developers Federation also supported the focus on urban development and infrastructure expansion. Overall, around 400 billion rupees has been allocated for physical infrastructure, which stakeholders believe could stimulate construction, jobs, and supply chains. However, they warned of continued dependence on external borrowing and weak revenue mobilization, along with risks of underutilized capital expenditure due to long-standing execution challenges.
The private sector has welcomed the upcoming budget, saying its focus on investment and economic growth helps boost economic activity and business confidence. Let's hear what the public have to say in today's Public Pulse.
सबै क्षेत्र समेट्न खोजेको छ तपाईको औद्योगिक क्षेत्रलाई पनि समेटेको छ उद्योगीहरूले करका दरको विषयमा कुरा गरिरहेको थियो उद्योग चाहिँ गर्नलाई गाह्रो भयो भन्ने कुरा गर्थ्यो हामीले थुप्रै अरु दिएको थियो हैन हाम्रो सुझाव थुप्रै दिएको थियो धेरै समेटिएको छ जुन चाहिँ हामीले करका दरहरु सम्बोधन हुनुपर्छ भन्ने कुराहरु गरेका थियौ उधारो उठती कानुनको कुरा हामीले गरेका थियौ त्यो कुरामा चाहिँ सम्बोधन गरेका छ हैन सरकारले
यो अहिलेको भ्याट सिस्टमलाई मल्टिपल्समा लानुपर्छ भनेर रिकमेन्ड गरेका थियौ त्यसको अब अध्ययन गर्ने भन्ने कुरा आएको छ अब ग्रेजुअली त्यो अब देशको पनि अब आफ्नो इन्स्टिट्युसनल क्यापेसिटी बनाउँदै लिएर गएपछि त्यो लागू होला
बजेट हेर्दाखेरि धेरै राम्रो छ बजेटको सुरुवातै राम्रो जुन निजी क्षेत्रले माग गरेका करका कुराहरू थिए त्यसैबाट विगतको प्रकृतिभन्दा फरक ढंगले प्रस्तुत गरिएको छ
कच्चा पदार्थको भन्सार दरमा एक बिन्दु कम गर्ने हैन त्यसैले मसिनरी खरिददा अन्तपक्ष आयकरको छुटको कुरा 10 लाख पुराको छ यसपालि कार्यान्वयन भयो भने वास्तवमा यसलाई हामी स्वागतै गर्छौं त्यति धेरै नराम्रो होइन
पर्यटन क्षेत्रका नयाँ आयामहरूलाई उजागर गरेको हामीले महसुस गरेका छौं विशेषतः चाहिँ यो आयुर्वेद र स्वास्थ्यसँग जोड्ने पर्यटनको विषयको कुराहरू गरेको छ त्यसैगरी शालिग्राम पथको हैन एउटा चाहिँ विषय उच्चारण गरिएको छ हैन यो पनि एउटा लगानी गर्न चाहने जो पर्यटनको क्षेत्रमा लगानी गर्न चाहने व्यवसायीहरुको लागि यो एउटा सुन्दर विकल्प हुन सक्छ र समग्र व्यवसायीहरुको लागि भनेर चाहिँ आजको बजेटमा एउटा चाहिँ नयाँ विषय चाहिँ जो उधारो असुली जो कानुनको विषयहरू आयो यो पनि एकदम हामी व्यवसायीले निजी क्षेत्रले यो स्वागतपूर्ण मान्नुपर्छ
यो राजस्वका स्रोतहरू चाहिँ झन्डै 600 650 अर्ब रुपैयाँ चाहिँ उहाँहरुले अब डेफिसिट छ त्यो कहाँबाट पुरा गर्नुहुन्छ भएको करका दरहरू घटाउने अनि छुटको सुविधा पनि बढाउने उद्योगहरूलाई पनि छुट बढा भनेको छ तर वास्तविकता के छ त्यो कुरो थाहा छैन अनि यतातिर तलब बढाउने आदि गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो डेफिसिट कहाँबाट पुरा गर्नुहुन्छ के हुन्छ र भोलि त्यो त्यसले चाहिँ मलाई के लाग्छ भने त्यो पुँजीगत खर्च कटौती हुन्छ सधैँ हुने गरेको त्यही हो
Industrialists and business persons of the Sunsari-Morang Industrial Corridor in eastern Nepal also have welcomed the government's newly announced budget for fiscal year 2026-27, calling it a milestone for industrial growth. However, they are urging the government to back its promises with a concrete implementation action plan, raising concerns that capital budgets have historically gone unspent. Subeksha Rajak, along with our local correspondent from Morang, Mohan Manandar, brings more.
Industrialists and business people of the Sunsari-Morang Industrial Corridor have been greatly enthused by the budget brought by the federal government on Friday for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27. However, they have urged the government to prepare a concrete action plan for its implementation. At a time when the capital budget of approximately 407.89 billion rupees allocated for the current fiscal year 2025-26 could not be fully spent, concerns have been raised about whether the proposed capital budget of approximately 431.10 billion rupees for the coming year will actually be utilized. Industrialists stated that the government's decision, including the withdrawal of excise duties on many goods and restructuring customs rates into 7 tiers, will support industrial expansion. They said they are particularly encouraged by the raising of the corporate tax limit for small and medium enterprises, and noted that since many of their own suggestions have been incorporated into the budget, it will serve as a milestone for the days ahead.
हाम्रो लजिस्टिक एक्सपेन्डिचर चाहिँ एकदम हाई भएको अवस्थामा सुरुङ मार्ग प्राथमिकतामा चाहिँ विकास निर्माणमा राखिनुपर्ने कुरामा यसपालि यो सरकारले राखिदिएको छ। त्यसमा हामी चाहिँ निजी क्षेत्रबाट उत्साहित छौँ।
हामीलाई फिल भइरहेछ कि नेपालमा अवसरको कुनै कमी छैन र यदि सरकारले जुन तरिकाले बजेट पेश भएको छ यदि त्यसलाई चाहिँ सरकारले यदि त्यसलाई चाहिँ एउटा मूर्त रूप दिन सक्छ भने देशको कायाकल्पमा हुनमा बेर लाग्दैन।
The 2.124 trillion rupees budget presented by Finance Minister Swarnim Wagle has allocated funds for Kosi province covering roads, energy, drinking water, tourism and sports infrastructure. Woman entrepreneur Junu Shrestha said she was excited by the announcement to prepare an investment model for a 2,000-seat multipurpose stadium in Biratnagar and the Girija Prasad Koirala cricket ground.
विराटनगरको रङ्गशालाको लागि चाहिँ क्रिकेट स्टेडियमको लागि केही बजेट छुट्याइदिनु भएको छ। एकदम खुसीको कुरा हो किनभने यो धेरै वर्ष अगाडिदेखि रोकेको कुरा थियो। अब यसपालिको बजेटमा चाहिँ केही अब यो 3 वर्ष भित्रमा कम्प्लिट गर्ने भन्ने कुरा आएको छु। म त्यसको लागि एकदम खुसी छु।
Locals expressed great hope from the current budget, provided the government corrects the taxes imposed on education and health services and the value-added tax applied on electricity consumption above 50 units. Industrialists and the general public have demanded that the government formulate a special action plan to resolve the long-standing problem of budget sounding good at announcement but failing to reach the implementation stage.
While some existing programs related to Madhesh have been continued and certain plans in tourism, infrastructure and health have raised expectations, political, economic and civil society representatives from Madhesh are commenting that the budget has failed to adequately address the province. Subiksha Rajak along with local correspondent Sanjay Kumar Jha from Dhanusha brings more.
The government has announced the developing of Janakpur Dham as an international wedding and religious tourism destination. The process of listing the Janaki Temple on the UNESCO World Heritage List will be moved forward, and budget has been allocated for the upgrading of the Ram Janaki Path and Ram Janaki Parikrama route. On the transportation infrastructure front, budget has been set aside to accelerate construction of the Hulaki Highway and Expressway, connect Madhesh to Kathmandu by rail, and construct the Bartibas-Biratnagar Railway. Necessary resources have also been secured to complete the remaining section of Janakpur Dham Jayanagar Bardibas Railway. However, economics Nano Jha expressed dissatisfaction, saying no clear budget allocations have been made for the announced plans. According to him, programs such as the UNESCO listing of the Janaki Temple and developing Janakpur Dham as a wedding destination risk remaining mere announcements.
Budget पुरा त आएछ त्यसमा के यसो गर्ने हामीले यो एउटा हब बनाउने म्यारेज हब बनाउने यहाँ यो जनकपुरलाई त्यो हिसाबले त जुन हिसाबले बजेटको एलोटमेन्ट हुनुपर्ने त्यो सफिसिएन्ट मलाई लागेन त्यो तपाईको त्यो बजेटले हुन्छ कि हुँदैन आई डाउट त्यो हिसाबले देखियो.
Local resident Kiran Jha says the needs and expectations of Madhesh have not received adequate space in the budget.
जसरी 2/3 बहुमतले मधेसबाट सब प्रथम उत्साहित भएर जसरी पठाइएको थियो त्यस प्रकारको बजेट चाहिँ देखिएको छैन किनभने यहाँ जनमुखी हुनु पर्यो जो प्रदेश सरकारको जो हाम्रो मधेस प्रदेशमा आज रङशाला होस् या अन्य बजेट जति उत्साहित थियौं हामी जति हुनुपर्ने उहाँको दृष्टि जानुपर्ने त्यतिसम्म गएको देखिदैन.
Former central member of the Federation of Nepali Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Nirmal Chaudhary, also commented that Madhesh has been neglected in the budget.
अपेक्षित छैन उपेक्षित गरिएको छ हैन खास गरिकन यो कृषि र पर्यटन मैले दुईटा कुरा भने कृषिमा यहाँका युवाहरू सबै पलायन भएर विदेशमा छन् रोजगारीको क्रममा 50 डिग्री सेल्सियसको तातोमा पनि काम गरेर आफ्नो जीवनयापन गर्ने क्रममा छन्। त्यसैले कृषि क्षेत्रलाई पनि उन्नत गर्ने हो भने, यो भूमिलाई उब्जाउ गर्ने हो भने, यो भूमिको प्रयोग गर्ने हो भने कृषि क्षेत्रमा अत्याधिक सब्सिडीको व्यवस्था गर्नुपर्ने मलाई आवश्यकता देखिएको छ। तर त्यो पनि यो बजेटले त्यसलाई पनि छुन सकेको देखिएको छैन।
Overall, while the budget goals include some significant plans for Madhesh, economists here question whether those plans will be implemented and whether adequate resources will be ensured for them.
Nepali Congress President Gagan Kumar Thapa has said that the new budget presented by the government shows a lack of concern for low-income groups. President Thapa said that although the budget includes several positive aspects, it reflects a significant neglect of low-income citizens.
प्रतिपक्षको जिम्मेवारी सानो जिम्मेवारी होइन। हामीले बनाएको पार्लियामेन्ट्री डेमोक्रेसीमा सरकार पक्षको जति जिम्मेवारी हुन्छ फरक तर त्यति नै जिम्मेवारी प्रतिपक्षको पनि हुन्छ। इतिहासले, नागरिकले, समयले आज हामीलाई प्रतिपक्षको जिम्मेवारी सुम्पिएको छ। राम्रोसँग प्रतिपक्षको जिम्मेवारी निर्वाह गरौँ। धेरै कुरामा यो प्रतिपक्षको जिम्मेवारी निर्वाह गरिराख्दै गर्दाखेरि हामीले निर्वाचन हार्यौं, सत्ता सञ्चालन गर्ने जिम्मेवारी प्राप्त गरेनौं भन्ने यो धेरै गन्थन गरिराख्ने, धेरै यो चिन्तामा डुबिराख्यौं भने हामीले अहिले प्राप्त गरेको जिम्मेवारीप्रति न्याय गर्न सक्दैनौं।
A community known as the Kings of the Forest is facing a challenge few anticipated when government support was introduced. How has social security funding affected the lives of Nepal's Raute people? We'll take a look into this in our cover story after a short break. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Time for the cover story. Nepal's only nomadic group, the Raute community, are known as Kings of the Forest, with their own distinct identity, language and culture. But what started as Nepal government's plans to attempt at social security for them now seems to have given unintended and unforeseen results in the form of rising alcohol addiction within the Raute community. Instead of food, clothes and other basic necessities, a significant portion of this indigenous nomadic tribe seems to be gravitating towards spending the money on alcohol and other products. Bijeta Bhandari, along with our local correspondent Sushil Khadka, brings a report.
The Raute community, an endangered indigenous nomadic group of Nepal known for its forest-based hunter-gatherer lifestyle, is facing a deepening crisis as increasing dependence on government allowances begins to reshape its traditional way of life. Long identified as the kings of the forest, the Rautes have historically rejected settled living and even considered touching money a sin, sustaining themselves instead through crafting wooden goods and bartering. Recently, that subsistence-based system is rapidly eroding. Regular social security payments distributed by local governments have made cash a central part of daily life, with many community members now waiting for allowance distributions. In a recent instance, Guras Rural Municipality in Karnali Province provided 1.58 million rupees, or around $10,000 to 132 individuals, handing out around 12,000 rupees each.
सबै राम्रो मिठो खानेकुरा खाने, मासु खाने, दाल तरकारीहरू किन्ने, है, अण्डाहरू, दूध यस्तो घर मात्रै किन्ने है, अनि यो सुर्ती रक्सी सक्सीहरू किन्ने कुरामा पैसा नफाल्ने है.
While the cash brings short-term relief, concerns are growing over its long-term impact. Local officials and community leaders report that a significant portion of the funds is being spent on alcohol, contributing to rising addiction within the settlement.
बट्टा पाएको पैसा अब चामल खाने अब पहिला रक्सिने नै हुने चिया अब यस्तै नेपालमा रक्सिने भइदिए भए हाम्रो जनताहरुले पनि खान नदिने चिया नखाने चिया हामी पनि अलिअलि अब पहिला आफूले बनाएको त्यो झोल मात्रै खाया थियो आज पनि अलिकता यति एक गिलास झोल हामी पनि खाया छौँ धात पुडा गरेर क्या फाइदा छ र अरूले धाच्यार फाइदा हुँदैन अरूले थेगेर फाइदा हुँदैन
A single Rowdy family in an average receives up to 100,000 rupees in government allowances from these funds every 4 months. Ironically, instead of improving their standard of living, this amount has increased dependency. Their ancestral skills and hard work in crafting wooden items for livelihood are gradually disappearing. Organizations such as SOSEC Nepal, which has worked in Rowdy settlements for years, say the absence of a coordinated government strategy has made it difficult to address these emerging social and health challenges.
अहिले राउटेहरूलाई अब यताउता जान नदियो भने पनि यिनको अधिकारका कुरा छन् यिनका संरक्षणका कुरा छन् उनीहरूलाई त्यता नजानुस् भन्नु नसकिने र सबैभन्दा ठुलो नजिकको व्यापारीहरूलाई यो बिक्री गर्यो भने त्यसबेला कारबाही हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा गर्नुपर्छ जुन अहिले चाहिँ अब कर्णाली प्रदेशले यो राउटे नीति बनाउँदैछ त्यो नीतिमा त्यो कुरा हालेर अनि नजिकको प्रहरीलाई जहाँ राउटे बस्छन् त्यसको वरिपरि हामीले त्यो सन्देशहरू प्रचार गर्ने र अनि योलाई बन्द गर्ने कुरा हाम्रो अभियान चाहिँ हुन्छ
Alcohol use combined with poor nutrition is increasingly affecting reproductive health and overall life expectancy. Although the Karnali province government has introduced policies aimed at protecting the Rowdy community and managing their movement through designated corridors, implementation remains limited. As a result, despite continued public spending, both the preservation of Rowdy culture and the well-being of its people remain under serious threat. Bijata Bhandari, along with correspondent Sushil Kharka, reporting for NTV World.
Now that was the cover story of the day. Now we move on to other updates. Nepal's Department of Mines and Geology has initiated preparations for a second phase agreement aimed at commercial petroleum extraction. The department is working internally on a potential additional agreement between itself and the China Geological Survey for commercial-scale extraction activities. The petroleum exploration project, conducted with technical assistance from the government of China to promote domestic production of petroleum resources, has completed its first phase activities, including drilling and exploration works in central district of Dailek. Preliminary sample testing conducted to assess petroleum reserves and storage capacity has indicated promising potential for both petroleum and natural gas in the region. Now, the Himalayan database, the authoritative archive of mountaineering expeditions in Nepal's Himalayas, is continuing to document climbers' ascents amid a sharp rise in commercial expeditions on the world's highest peaks. Founded in 1963 by late American journalist Elizabeth Hawley, the database is now maintained by German climber Billy Beerling, who conducts post-expedition interviews with mountaineers in Kathmandu. Beerling said the increasing number of climbers attempting peaks such as Everest has made the task more challenging, with Nepal issuing a record 492 Everest permits to foreign climbers this season. Now, despite the growing scale of Himalayan climbing, Beerling said SC remains committed to maintaining the database's accuracy and continuity, ensuring that every expedition is carefully verified and recorded despite the increasing workload. Now, the Embassy of Nepal in Brussels organized a dialogue on climate change and its impact on the Himalayas at the European External Action Service to mark International Everest Day. The event brought together diplomats, EU and Belgian officials, climate experts and academics to discuss the urgent impacts of climate change on the Himalayan region. Foreign Affairs Minister Shishir Khanal, in a video message, stressed the need for collective global action to protect fragile mountain ecosystems. Ambassador Sewa Lamsal highlighted Nepal's climate challenges and called for stronger international financial support for adaptation efforts. The dialogue concluded with discussions on collaborative approaches to address climate challenges in the Himalayan region. Nepal's far western Sudurpashchim province government has advanced the process of formulating legislation to legally regulate the traditional Tharu Badkal Palmansa system. The bill on the protection and development of Badkar and Balmancha practices has been tabled in the Provincial Assembly, aiming to preserve, promote and develop the indigenous social structure of the Tharo community. The proposed legislation seeks to formalize Tharo communities' traditional social roles, defining their responsibility and working procedures. The legislation further ensures at least 33% representation of women in these traditional governance structures. Now, the historic Tuchimala Bhaira Pyaka dance from Bhaktapur, approximately 600 years old, has been performed for the first time in central Nepal's Hetauda. The attractive dance of deities from the Malla period enchanted all spectators. The Tuchimala Bhaira Pyaka is a religious and cultural dance about 600 years old, practiced in the Newar community of Bhaktapur. Performed mainly on the occasion of the Gai Jatra festival, this pyaka is considered an important symbol of Newar civilization, religious faith and cultural identity. Characters of deities including Bhaira, Mahakali, Parahi, Durga and Mahalakshmi appeared with masks and traditional costumes. Kicha Pyaka and Kwacha Pyaka also attracted special attention from spectators at the program. Now, international news coming up next, but before that, let's take a look at the headlines. 453 Nepali nationals rescued from India's various locations brought to Rupandehi. Investigation also launched. Nepal's PM says government committed to implement women's rights, stresses on ending witchcraft, chaupadi and gender violence. Nepal's upcoming budget focuses on middle-class relief with tax exemptions. Private sector welcomes rise in capital expenditures. Hegseth says U.S. not turning back on Asia allies but expects them to boost defense, adds U.S. wants to avoid needless confrontation. No deal announced after Trump's meeting to make final determination on Iran deal. Iran blames U.S. blockade for stalled deal. And Nepal suffers a 2-wicket defeat in semi-final of the Asian Games qualifier to face China tomorrow for third place playoff. Russian President Vladimir Putin says no one can say that a drone that crashed in Romania was Russian amid European anger over the incident. The crash took place overnight, injuring 2 people and triggering a fire, according to Romanian officials who say the drone was Russian.
Никто не может сказать, какого происхождения тот или другой летательный аппарат до тех пор, пока не проведена экспертиза этого летательного аппарата. Ведь мы знаем, что и в Финляндию залетали украинские дроны, и в Польшу, и куда-то в страны Прибалтики залетали украинские дроны. Первая реакция была точно такая же, как сейчас вот в Румынии. Вот караул, русские идут, русские бьют. Потом через короткое время выяснялось, что ничего общего с российскими летательными аппаратами это не имеет.
Protecting children online has been declared an international priority by G7 countries following a summit chaired by France. France's Digital Minister Anne-Lé Henaf said the 7 member nations, which include Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Japan and the US and the UK, agreed on a set of common principles aimed at strengthening online safety for minors.
Donc, ensemble et au-delà du G7, le G7+, nous avons tous affirmé que la protection des mineurs était une priorité. Nos enfants, évidemment, ils doivent pouvoir bénéficier du numérique sans que leur sécurité, leur santé, leur développement soient compromis. Ces principes reposent notamment sur plusieurs aspects. Vérification d'âge efficace et respectueuse de la vie privée, sécurité et protection des mineurs dès la conception des services numériques et des outils de contrôle parental plus accessibles, la lutte contre les contenus illicites, notamment les contenus pédocriminels et les images intimes non consenties, Le développement de l'éducation au numérique et à l'intelligence artificielle, ça c'est un sujet.
Now, millions of people with breast cancer could safely avoid chemotherapy as scientists have developed a DNA test that can distinguish between patients who are likely to benefit from the treatment and those who are not, according to the results of a trial. The international study found that more than 2/3 of its participants could be spared the side effects of chemotherapy and be treated with hormone therapy alone. The study, led by University College London, UCL, involved more than 4,000 newly diagnosed patients over the age of 40 in the UK, Norway, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand and Thailand. Scientists used a gene test called Prosenia to measure the activity of 50 genes involved in breast cancer growth and calculate a patient's risk of the disease returning. Now, China sends out 21 astronauts return safely to Earth after completing a record-setting nearly 7-month mission aboard this country's space station. During the mission, the astronauts conducted a series of scientific, medical and technological experiments, including China's first successful breeding of mice in orbit and the first aeroponic cultivation of cherry tomatoes and wheat in space. China launched Shenzhou 21 in October 2025, while a replacement spacecraft, Shenzhou 22, was later sent to ensure the crew's safe return to Earth. Business news coming up next. For now, a short breather.
The European Union has announced the release of $19 billion in frozen funds for Hungary, marking a major victory for Prime Minister Péter Magyar's newly elected government. The funds had been withheld during former Prime Minister Viktor Orban's tenure over concerns about democratic standards, corruption, and LGBTQ rights. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said $11.6 billion will come from the EU Recovery Fund, $4.8 billion from the cohesion funds, with an additional $2.5 billion to be released as reforms are completed. Magyar's government has already begun reversing key Orban-era policies, including abandoning plans to leave the International Criminal Court and allowing Budapest Pride Parade to proceed. EU officials say the first disbursement of funding could be expected before the end of the year if Hungary completes the required steps on schedule. The United States is expanding its space-based missile defense capabilities with a new multi-billion-dollar satellite contract awarded to SpaceX. The U.S. Space Force announced a $4.16 billion deal for a satellite network designed to detect, track, and help target airborne threats as part of the Pentagon's broader defense strategy. The satellites are expected to support the Trump administration's Golden Dome missile defense initiative by providing advanced space-based sensing and tracking capabilities. The Space Force said the first constellation of satellites is projected to be operational by 2028, helping address critical surveillance and tracking gaps for U.S. forces. The Space Force said there are several companies in this SBAMTI vendor pool, including SpaceX, and it will issue multiple awards in the coming year. The award follows a separate $2.29 billion military communications contract for SpaceX to build high-speed satellite communications network.
Time for sports update. Holders PSG is locking horns with Arsenal in the final of the UEFA Champions League underway at Bucharest Arena in Budapest of Hungary. PSG is looking to retain its title after beating Inter 5-0 in last year's final. Arsenal, that just won their first Premier League crown in 22 years, has never won the Champions League, although it was runners-up to Barcelona in 2007. Three-time French Open champion Novak Djokovic said he was unsure if he would return to the red clay of Roland Garros next year, following his third-round defeat by Brazilian tennis sensation João Fonseca on Friday. The 39-year-old Serb, who celebrated his birthday last week, fell to a rare defeat in Paris, raising questions over his future in the tournament after 22 consecutive appearances. Djokovic, who has been injured for 3 months, said he felt he had played really good tennis against Fonseca, but felt tired at the end of what will enter records as his longest game ever played in the French Open at 4 hours and 53 minutes. And now the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look at the headlines once again. 453 Nepali nationals rescued from India's various locations brought to Rupandehi. Investigation also launched. Nepal's PM says government committed to implement women's rights, stresses on ending witchcraft, torpedy and gender violence. Nepal's upcoming budget focuses on middle-class relief with tax exemptions. Private sector welcomes rise in capital expenditures. Hexet says U.S. not turning back on Asia allies but expects them to boost defense. Adds U.S. wants to avoid needless confrontations. No deal announced after Trump's meeting to make final determination on Iran deal. Iran blames U.S. blockade for stalled deal. And Nepal suffers a 2-wicket defeat in semi-final of the Asian Games qualifier to face China tomorrow for a third-place playoff. That is all for the moment. Do join us through our social media and visit us at www.nepaltelevision.com for more information and news. I'm April Singh Lama. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.